that Clayfish and Nicholson could kind of split the traditional Republican base, and Rampton would get the crazy vote. And how big is the crazy vote? That's the big X question coming into the Republican primary in August.
I'd say it's substantial.
It's not small, I can tell you that.
So right here in the great state of Wisconsin, the four-time former governor, Tommy Thompson, had been publicly considering this run and traveled to Mar-a-Lago. For those, that weren't watching as closely as I was. And I was excited about this prospect, mostly just to stir up the race, to stir the pot, get out the popcorn. Let's have a good time. But Thompson apparently pulled the family. And the family said, "Don't run, Tommy, don't run." And Tommy Thompson said, "Well, how can you effectively run for governor if your wife's against it and your kids are against it?" And I said, "Well, let me tell you, Tommy."
And how'd that work out?
Not so well, not successfully. But anyway, so Tommy's not in the race. What about this Michaels guy, the builder? Some businessman, a self-funder, if you will.
Yeah, he's been flirting with it on and off. I don't think he's going to be a big player. Clayfish, the safe money's on Clayfish. She's got all the endorsements. She's got Robin Voss. She's got the Walker people.
Eventually, she'll get right-wing talk radio, probably.
I was on her website today. She's got Grover Norquist, who wants to, drown government in the bathtub. And so she's got all her credentials and all her endorsements. And she's been spending money in the elections, supporting candidates for the state assembly and the state senate. So the traditional Republican electeds and Republican elites love her. The question is, who's going to turn out, though? And in partisan primaries, the people who turn out are the ideologues. And the ideologues in the Republican Party right now are in Trump land, which means they're in Rampton land. And so that's going to be a potential problem for her.
I just don't see how Rantham's candidacy is plausible. I get it. I've seen some of the statistics. And if you're unfamiliar, we got a guy who's running entirely predicated on overturning the 2020 election. That's the Ram Jam, the Tim Rantham character we keep mentioning.
Tim time. That's what he calls it.
Tim time. It's Tim time. Tim's time to lose, I would say. But then you look at polling. I gave my youngest kid a hard time the other day. He's like, "Well, Dad, are you against Republicans?" I said, "No, not in and of itself. It's not the Republican part I disagree with. It's the part that they haven't stopped litigating the last election. The 2020 election." And when you look, like 45% of Republicans strongly agree that it was rigged and stolen, and like another 30% say, some would agree with that statement. That's like 75% of the Republican Party is still trying to relitigate 2020, Matt.
And that's
the part I disagree with.
That's the choir Rampton's singing to, though. And those folks may come out and vote. And if there are two people with a lot of money in the middle lane of the Republican Party and one guy way out in right field like Rampton, it's possible he could squeak through.
Now, Tony Evers, the Democratic governor of the great state of Wisconsin, he'd love to run against Ram Jam, don't you think?
Yeah.
Let's run against Trump and the rigging of the last election.
And I'm sure Evers would win that. I'm not sure Evers would beat Rebecca Clayfish, especially this year with Biden's numbers so low. It's just a huge headwind that Evers is going to be running into. His numbers were up in the last Marquette Law School poll, but it's going to be a hard time for Democrats wherever they're running. And Rebecca Clayfish, who can present well, can appeal to suburban moms.
She's telegenic. She was a news anchor, effectively, for Channel 12, I believe, for years. She's got a history of speaking for a living and doing so in front of TV cameras.
Yeah, I don't underestimate her, and I don't think anyone should. It's not going to be an easy race for Tony Evers against her. Against Rampton, I think he'd mop the floor.
Now, Nicholson offers quite a wild card. I look at Nicholson. Clayfish is the one that scares me. If I'm rooting for Tony, and I'd like to think I am, then Clayfish, I think, poses the greatest threat. I think Thompson could have. And you and I maybe disagreed, but Tommy's out, so he's not the candidate.
No, Tommy would have been a tough candidate in the general.
Nicholson, I cannot find a good reason to support Kevin Nicholson, other than the fact he's got a rich sugar daddy buying ads and getting him name recognition. Why Nicholson? Can you play devil's advocate for just a minute, Matt Rothschild? Why Kevin Nicholson? What good reason would any Republican? He's handsome. He's a former Marine, but he's a former Democrat who spoke at the DNC.
Yeah, I don't get the Nicholson thing either. Obviously, he's an ambitious person who somehow weaseled his way into Richard Eline's pocket. But
I need a sugar daddy.
Who doesn't? But I was at Nicholson's website today, and he says if he's elected, he wants to sue public universities under the Civil Rights Act if they're teaching critical race theory. He's jumping all over the critical race theory bandwagon. He's that kind of an opportunist.
Do you perceive him as a serious candidate? If
No,
somehow he threaded the needle and he won the Republican primary, I think Tony Evers, I mean, I guess compared to Tony's, aging, he's 70, I believe, approximately. Nicholson would be what, a strapping late 30s, early 40s kind of guy. So there'd be a contrast, old versus new. And I know that Nicholson's trying to be the outsider, even within his own party. He's seeking, don't give an endorsement to asking the Republican Party. They've got their convention in May. And he asked the party, don't give it an endorsement before the primary. And I think that's logical. But if you do, please endorse me.
Explain both sides there. Again, if he happens to win the nomination, and I don't think he's likely to, I think it's clay fishes to lose, but with a possibility of Rampton. If you like long odds, I'd put money on Rampton, not Nicholson. But look, if Nicholson managed to do it, and this is a bad political season for Democrats, he'd still have a shot. I think Evers would win, though. Not sure about Rebecca Clayfish, though.
Folks, you are listening to the Devil's Advocates radio show. Got to find Code Devil all through the 3:00 hour. Matt Rothschild, he answered the call. He is Batman, the vigilante of good governance. He is the executive director of the Wisconsin Democracy Campaign. I'm doing all that by memory. That's pretty good.
I like it. It's good.
Did you hear the newest news at thehill.com? Joe Biden is in it to win it. Joe Biden's running again. And I think it's a little early to make an announcement of that sort. He didn't make a public, promise he's running, but he apparently told his old boss, Obama, and now it's being reported at the Hill. And he apparently thinks he's the only one that can beat Donald Trump. Joe thinks Joe is the only one that can beat Donald Trump. And if Trump's running again, apparently he is. And if he runs, he's probably the presumptive Republican nominee. Then we're going to have a matchup of 2020 all over again, at least if Joe Biden gets his way. Do you see the logic? Do you see the wisdom of a Joe Biden candidacy in 2024?
I see the wisdom of the announcement that he's running. I don't see the wisdom of him actually running in 2024.
But if it's not Joe, it's chaos. Is it not for the Democratic side?
Well, the question is whether Biden's going to be the best candidate for the Democrats in 2024. He's old already. He's acting old already. Is he going to be acting any younger 2 years from now? That seems unlikely. There are, so Kamala Harris would run. Elizabeth Warren would probably run. Pete Buttigieg would probably run. I think there's some buyer's remorse on Biden, as we're seeing in these poll numbers. I mean, he's down in the mid 30s, for God's sakes. Hard for me to see how he's going to bounce back tremendously, though it might happen. But I think America wants different choices. I actually think America wanted different choices last time around. And to have a replay of Trump and Biden with candidates they didn't like the last time around going at it round two, I just don't, it's not like it's going to be Ali Frazier round two.
But you could say they didn't want Joe Biden. And I readily admit Joe Biden was not my first choice. But I, like 81 million other Americans, voted for Joe Biden in record numbers, that at least on election day. And I have no doubt that voting against Donald Trump was a big part, but enough people had confidence in Joe Biden. 81 million. That's a big number, Matt.
It was huge turnout on both sides. I'm not convinced Trump's going to be the candidate on the other side, but a lot of those folks who voted for Biden obviously aren't supporting him if you look at the polls. And so what's going on there? People are mad about the price of food and price of gas. I get that. I actually like the way Biden's governed for the most part. I think he's handled the economy real well. I think he handled COVID real well. I think he's handled this Ukraine crisis real well. He's been more progressive than I thought he'd be on the packages he brought forward. So I don't have a tremendous problem with him right now. But, I can read a poll and the polls don't look good.
It's ironic, or I don't know if irony is the right term here, Matt. My understanding is Joe Biden has held the support of, let's call it, older people. And I'm not throwing you in that category.
Oof, you're hurting me.
But you're beyond your 30s, let's just say. Joe Biden has really lost, and the polling has lost the support of the younger voters. But older voters were less supportive of Joe Biden out of the gate, but have held steady in their support of Joe. I think pragmatically, we're used to seeing presidents get elected, make big promises, and being able to deliver very little for the American people. And I don't think, we look at the circumstances, hopefully pragmatically, and say, considering Joe didn't do half bad. But that's not how young people are looking at this.
Yeah. I mean, canceling student debt would have been nice. Doing more on climate change would have been nice.
Matt Rothschild, my fine code devil for the hour. Come back with us. Phone lines open, 844-967-2789. It's a Tuesday. Make it the greatest radio show ever. The Devil's Advocates is my passion. It must be. I've been doing it for a decade. Running two Wisconsin radio stations, providing the only platforms of truth and resistance against fascism in a critical swing state. That's a vital mission and a tremendous responsibility. And it all costs money. So support the mission and the show. Join and give at patreon.com at the Devil's Advocates Radio. Help me change hearts and minds and just maybe save democracy.
President Trump lost the election. Joe Biden won the election.
Collectively, Republicans got 1.661 million votes, 51,000 more votes than Trump got.
He exhausted his cases. He exhausted the court challenges.
All the Republicans voted for Trump the way they voted for the assembly candidates. He would have won.
It was not rigged. It was not stolen. Donald Trump lost the election. Joe Biden won the election. It's really clear.
This message was paid for by the People for People Corporation. Donate online at p4ppc.org.
The Devil's Advocates.
The plaintiff, Donald J. Trump, hereby serves his suit against the defendants, Hillary Clinton and her cohorts, orchestrated an unthinkable plot, one that shocks the conscience and is an affront to the nation's democracy.
This week on Fox.
You know what I mean? Like you're throwing a few too many adverbs and adjectives in this sentence.
One man, one mission Donald Trump gets made fun of. This is Watergate 2.
Making radio great again.
Spruce up your home with soy candles from Wisco Home Goods. I'm Don, one of the owners of this family-owned Midwestern business in Madison, Wisconsin. Our candles are 100% sustainable and come in a variety of unique blends and scents. Did you know our candle jars are also double old-fashioned glasses? That's right, buy a candle and you get a free cocktail glass. Check out our blog at wiscohomegoods.com/blog for more information. That's wiscohomegoods.com/blog.
The Devil's Advocates, the fix for political junkies everywhere.
It was a beautiful day.
Welcome back to the Devil's Advocates Radio Show, the Tuesday edition. I got a fine code devil. He's my pal, Matt Rothschild, from the Wisconsin Democracy Campaign. A little journalism in his background as well. Done a little bit of talking, heading around here. Appreciate when you come around, and we appreciate when you join the show by dialing 844-967-2789. Now, Matt, it's pretty early to say, but, Tony Evers, all the Democrats, they're all worried about what's coming down the pike. Is it going to be a red wave? And this red wave, if anything, is reflective of the low approval rating of Joe Biden. And I got to tell you, I'm kind of like you, man. I wasn't enamored with the guy. Yeah, but I say not half bad. As far as presidents go, I wasn't enamored, not after the governance of 8 years of Obama. Loved him as a candidate, and he settled into mediocrity, as they often do. And he's still a lot better than most of them, but there's only so much you can do in this day and age. Politics has changed. The country is far too divided. But I don't know where the animus for Joe Biden comes from. I sat down for lunch with a couple of Republicans. Unfortunately, I went to a funeral yesterday, but I got to see some old college friends, and one of them and his brother sat down and we went to lunch. And we talked politics the entire time, like long, leisurely lunch. No one really wanted to get back on the road very bad. And lots of politics, and they're both Trump supportive. And I asked the boys, and where's the anger? Where's this animus for Joe Biden coming from? I mean, they threw a couple of talking points at me, and they said they feel it, but I really didn't know inspired by what. Inspired by what? It's corruption was one of the things spouted back at me. Well, look at Hunter Biden and da, 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 da. And man, it was, and I said, but do you have a qualm with Donald Trump's daughter and son-in-law working in the White House and making $630 million while they're on the supposed taxpayer dole, although apparently didn't take the job salary, preferred the fringe benefits of access to the president, and selling that access is now some of the reporting is implying about Jared Kushner.
Getting $2 billion from the Saudis.
Talking about his contacts, not his prowess as a financial manager, because he's not that good at that, but he's certainly connected to the right people. Well,
so I don't understand. What do you think that animus was coming from friends?
Through disinformation on some level, through disinformation. The only real takeaway I had from this conversation was they wanted more family values espoused. It all comes back to the family values, Crudy. And I'm like, okay, fair enough. I said, I had this conversation with Ron Johnson after he said, it's not society's problem. It's your problem to raise your kid, right? And I got the same question for you boys who know me and have known me for 30 years. Here's my question. Same one I asked Ron. Well, I'm an orphan. What about me? Is that my parents' fault? They died. So is society kicking me to the curb? Am I supposed to go be a homeless kid? Or is it possible that by providing a social safety net and giving me at least a fighting chance with public education and some Pell Grants to go to college, maybe I'll just turn into a productive member of society? Although I've certainly walked down a few bad paths as well.
And what did they say to that?
Oh, but you're the exception to the rule, Crudy. I'm like, no, I was a guy who was given an opportunity that my parents couldn't give me because they were dead. Or as far as I knew, apparently I got a DNA daddy. I didn't know it at the time, but, lived 50 years of my life without the support of a dad, and the last 40 years of my life without the support of a mom. But I'm still out here living in society. And I said, so even if it's the parents' fault, let's blame it on the parents. I know we all like to blame ours, right? And our kids do the same. I said, but what are you basically dooming generations? You're dooming generations. You're writing off generations of people. If the parents are no good, well, screw the kids is basically the attitude. I'm like, but you also want something done about crime. You realize those same kids become perpetrators of crime, right? Or maybe you put a small investment into them. So if you want to talk about litigating or legislating family values, earned income tax credit, what do you think about that, boys? Not overly excited. I said, but all your logic, if that's what you're telling me is most important, give support, prop up the family. Well, you know what? I said, it's hard being poor. I said, it's been a long time for you guys, but do you remember what it's like being poor? When it's hard to keep the light bill on, and if your car breaks down, you're probably going to lose your job, and you can't afford to fix the car, and it spirals and it dominoes on you. I said, however, if you give those people a little bit of safety net, you give a little bit of a help. Well, and the one guy, and I'm almost done. And this is a friend of mine. I like this guy. But Brad says to me, yeah, well, we lived in a 1,000 square foot house growing up. Like, your dad was a CPA. And as his brother pointed out, yeah, and mom had her master's. You might have lived modestly. You might have made smart, shrewd financial choices as a family. But as soon as you kids got done with college, I saw dad moved into the McMansion out in Brookfield. So it's not like they didn't have a leg up societally. They had educational opportunities. They had opportunities presented to them just through the knowledge their mom and dad imparted on the household. But if you don't have that, do we give up on those people in society? And my answer is not from the progressive Democratic point of view. I've done most of the talk, man. I'll give you a chance to.
Well, and it doesn't sound like they had a great answer or that they could really explain their animus. I don't really get the animus against Joe Biden either. I've got a neighbor who's got a Let's Go Brandon flag flying outside their house along with the Blue Lives Matter flag. And I don't know what's what's driving them either.
You don't live near Blaska, do you?
No. Does he have both those flying? Maybe he does. But yeah, I mean, I can see people not liking the fact that their gas is costing a ton and that their food prices are up and things like that. But to hate this guy, I mean, he doesn't seem like a hateable guy, but there is all this energy of hatred toward Biden, which is certainly out there.
Do you think it's, and we're short on time here, Matt, we'll come back with some phone calls. So maybe hold this thought, but do you think it's because we, the resistant left, were so reactive to Donald Trump? I know I was. Come back. We'll take your phone calls. Want to hear your thoughts as well. I got Matt Rothschild, co-Devlin, and you on the phones next at 844-967-2789. More Devils.
Here we are, the young contender, scrappy, controversial, has an impressive reach. Devil Radio 92.7.
I'm sick and tired of the pro-choice versus pro-life argument. It's past time we get honest with each other. Pro-choice or forced birth. That's what we will have if we take away the ability of women to make choices for their own bodies, their own futures. Send me to the U.S. Senate and I will vote to codify Roe v. Wade. I will vote for the autonomy of women. You can find my position on all the issues at PekarskiForWisconsin.com and follow the campaign on Facebook and Twitter. This ad paid for by Pekarski for Wisconsin.
Listen to Devil Radio 92.7 and WTTN 1580 AM, Madison's home for progressive news talk radio, bringing you a lineup of live talk radio every single weekday. Tune in for Dueling Tangents with Luke and Brian every afternoon from 2 to 3 p.m. for Wisconsin news and a tangent or two. The Devil's Advocates radio show is live every weekday from 3 to 6 p.m. Still the greatest radio show ever. Always streaming at Devil Radio 92.7.
Coronavirus update. I'm Ed Donahue with an AP News Minute. Stocks finished higher. The Dow up 459 points. The government has launched the Center for Forecasting and Outbreak Analytics. CDC Director Dr. Rochelle Walensky says the goal is it will become the National Weather Service for infectious diseases, an early warning system.
This new center has the potential to improve lives, to save lives in ways we can really only even imagine at this time.
CDC has been granted temporary authority for coronavirus data collection. Moderna hopes to offer updated boosters in the fall that combine its original vaccine with protections against the Omicron variant. British Prime Minister Boris Johnson says he paid a $66 fine over a party for him that was held 2 years ago at 10 Downing Street during a coronavirus lockdown.
And I take this opportunity on the first available sitting day to repeat my wholehearted apology to the House.
Johnson insists he didn't knowingly break rules. I'm Ed Donahue.
I'm Joel Clark, a Select Quote agent, with a true story that could save you hundreds of dollars a year. A woman named Linda just called. Her husband, Ray, has a group life insurance policy, but is changing jobs and he can't take it with him. Well, I went to work and found Ray, who's 40 and takes medication to control his high blood pressure, a 10-year, $500,000 policy for only $19 a month. That's way more coverage for a lot less than what he was paying. If SelectQuote didn't shop for your life insurance, you're probably paying too much.
For your free quote and to find out how much you can save, call 1-800-597-2010. That's 1-800-597-2010. 1-800-597-2010. Or go to selectquote.com. Since 1985, we shop, you save.
Get full details on the example policies at selectquote.com/commercials. Your premium could vary depending on your health, issuing company, and other factors. Not available in all states.
For Devil Radio 92.7 FM and WTTN 1580 AM, I'm Luke Mathers with your headlines. The Madison City Council is set to deliberate a number of policy proposals at this evening's City Council meeting, including a proposal to equip Madison police officers with body cameras after studying the topic for 8 years. The vote is likely to be a close one as the issue has been contentious among city councilors in past debates. Several critics are questioning whether or not federal grants to expand broadband across Wisconsin and the nation will be claimed by large telecom companies to pay off existing capital costs rather than expand broadband access for citizens that currently lack broadband capabilities. Since Democratic State Representative Gary Hebel announced last week he was retiring from the Wisconsin State Assembly, Dane County Supervisor Melissa Ratcliffe and Madison City Council President Syed Abbas have announced they will be running to represent the 46th Assembly District. You're listening to Devil Radio 92.7 FM and WTTN 1580 AM.
Grass-fed, locally raised, 100% organic. The Devil's Advocates.
Welcome back to the Devil's Advocates Radio Show, the Tuesday edition. Got Evan here screening your calls lightly in Madison. I think Fancy Brand's going to jump on later with us. I got Matt Rothschild, co-Devlin, and I've got Shannon from Madison first up on the phones at 844-967-2789. Welcome, Shannon. Say hi to Matt.
Well, hi, Matt.
Hey, Shannon.
Okay, so I think there's a really simple answer as to why they hate Biden, and I think it's as simple as they're sore losers. It's hard to find like level-headed, informed, patient, wise people in life in general, but I think it's really hard to find them on the Republican side right now because so many of them have disassociated themselves at this point. So what's left are really the most immature, the least informed, the angriest, and they're angry, that first they were angry about Obama and Trump was kind of payback for that. And then Trump lost. And now this anger towards Obama and this fueling this great lie, I think is just, they're sore losers and they can't take personal responsibility for that fact.
Shannon, I made some radical life decisions after Donald Trump became the president. And I mean, radical. I sold a business, bought a radio station. I started making some big life choices.
Yeah, thanks for that. I appreciate that. Thank you.
I would say perhaps an overreaction to the election of Donald Trump. But, there are plenty that would say, well, Crudy, you just did that out of anger, out of spite, out of whatever. Did I, Shannon? I mean, it certainly could be perceived that way. And
well, yeah, Crudy, and
Shannon, I got to cut you off. I'm so sorry. Something happened with your phone there, and it really got bad. 844-967-2789. If you got a good phone line, Wisco Paul, we'll keep talking for a bit. Say hi to my pal, Matt Rothschild. No, it's the phones. I'm not sure what's going on. I had to reset my computer here a little while ago, so I'm sure we might be having similar action with the phones. We'll get back to the phone lines a little bit later, perhaps, at 844-967-2789. I know the text line's still working, so text in, and, Evan will share with me, and, if they're good. Not you, George. I know some of you just like to troll in.
Shannon called and said a lot were sore losers. Certainly there are a bunch of Republican sore losers out there, and Trump is the biggest sore loser in the history of any competition there ever was. But I also think there are some Republicans out there and some independents out there who worry about Biden's age, about his grip, whether he's still sharp or not. I know a lot.
But how many people said the same of Trump? And perhaps valid in both cases, but maybe, but wasn't that the left's criticism of Donald Trump?
Was one of them, but I mean, Trump appeared sharp in those debates. Even when he was running for re-election, if he didn't act like such a jerk in that first debate against Biden, he might have been reelected. And now I think Trump has lost a step or two also. But Biden, he's just a little shaky up there. And, we all saw the video of him shaking hands with a ghost when he was trying to finish up a talk he did a couple days ago. That didn't look good. I mean, he was made fun of on Saturday Night Live about it and on right-wing TV constantly. And it is a concern that people have, and maybe it's a legitimate concern. I don't know. But, so it's not just they're all sore losers. I think that's an element on the far right, certainly.
Do you think the fact, and I'm sorry to interrupt, Matt, but do you think the fact that Donald Trump said it was rigged? I mean, he was setting the stage for calling it rigged, of course, beforehand. And then he said it was rigged. It was stolen, and the million of illegals that voted and whatever his cockamamie explanations were, whether you believe them as a pragmatic lefty or not. Of course, we didn't, because we said, well, that's not what the recount showed. That's not what the math shows. But if it was Barack Obama, I mean, just for example, just for theoreticals here, playing devil's advocate for a minute, if Barack Obama had been defeated by Mitt Romney, let's say, and said, it was stolen, there's no way I lost to that boring plastic man candidate. That was clearly a stolen election. They've rigged it against me. You don't think the Democratic supportive, the vast majority of Democratic, voters would say, well, Obama said it was true. It's true. Now, Obama had a little better track record, let's say, than we perceive Trump to be, but it's no different, is it? If Obama said they stole it from me, I think I would have at least started from the premise it's a stolen election.
But will you keep up with that premise after you're over 60 in the federal courts and after, recount after recount after recount?
I would demand evidence.
Well, and the evidence was non-existent. And so I hope that people, who voted for Obama are more in the fact-based universe than the people who are still believing the lies that spill out of Trump's mouth, when he says good morning.
Well, perhaps putting a bow on my conversation with Craig and Brad yesterday, that was my point. You're making assertions. You say it. Now support it. Where'd that come from? What's your source? And I guess that's something that I've never been afraid of, is to be contradicted and find out, oh, I had a bad source of information. Or when I read more, or as new information has come to light, I'm not married to my old preconceived notion if it was wrong. And of course, when I'm argumentative, I mean, I've fought some emotional battles with Dominic on the radio, but with 24 hours, thinking it over, I've never woken up the next morning and said, well, I'm wrong, but I'm strong and I'm going to keep fighting about this point. If you present evidence, I would hope most people's minds would be changed. And last thought on the
I'm still hoping to change some of those Republican minds too. I mean, I don't think all of them are totally stuck in cement. A bunch of them are, but not 100% of them.
What do you think of that study that came out about paying Fox News viewers to watch CNN? And that was very surprising to me, because once upon a time, and I do this little radio show, and I'm trying to appeal to 65%. And I just think, well, there are the Trump supportive. I'm never going to get to them. I'm never going to win most of them over, or they wouldn't have voted for Trump. But I remember when Hillary Clinton called them deplorables back in 2016, and we did a little exercise. And I said, okay, I think you are deplorable, and call me, not that there's any Trump supportive people listening right now, but call me and tell me why you're not. And we had 2 hours of solid phone calls of people saying, oh, I love you guys, but I'm going to vote for Trump. And I would not have guessed at the time that we had an appeal that, they wanted to hear it both sides. Because I think, well, then how did you come to the conclusion to vote for Donald Trump? But I think that study demonstrates that there's more open-mindedness when you're presented with evidence and good sourcing. Even a Trump supporter can have their mind changed.
Yeah, this was like 30 days of watching CNN. They started to change their minds.
They started changing their minds on day 3. It only took like 3 days of accurate representation and information. And it's not that CNN doesn't have any political bias. Certainly they're more left, but at least they lead with information that's predicated on source and fact. They're not tanning testicles like Tucker over there. 844-967-2789. We're going to test out the phones. Wisco Paul, let's see how they sound now. Welcome back.
Hey, good afternoon.
Oh, much better, Paul. You're melodic. You're radio sexy. Welcome back.
Oh, well, thank you. It's always nice to listen to Matt's opinion. The right-wing media is very, very powerful. They've got a good message and they all stick to it. But I can't do nothing about the new maps, but I just want Matt's taken a couple of things. I really think Tony is well positioned to get reelected as governor again. I think he's a fair-minded, and I think people are going to look at it as a check and balance. And the second thing, Matt, I, for one, do not want to see Joe Biden run again. He was a good placeholder, and he did way better than I thought, but he's just getting too old. And I'll just throw a name out there, but because I don't know any Kennedys or Clintons that are in the bullpen here, but I would just throw a name out like the governor of California, Newsom. Somebody young, maybe inspirational.
Liberal West Coast elitist Gavin Newsom, Paul? Are you sure you want to tag the man with that?
Well, I'm just looking for somebody young. It doesn't have to be him. I'm just looking for some young, just somebody maybe in their 50s. Your age, Cody. I just don't want to see any of these 60-plus-year-old guys.
Hey, man, it's been a long time since anyone called me young, Paul. Appreciate the call. Eventually, there will be a passing of the torch. Maybe it'll be a Pete Buttigieg sort, although he's got his limitations as a politician as well. But Matt, I would probably, and I disagree with you, Paul. I like you, but if the candidate was Bernie Sanders with the current cognitive abilities that Bernie shows at 80, I'd have zero qualms about a vibrant Bernie Sanders running for re-election. And I suspect his approval ratings would be a little higher because I think he'd have done a better job of using the bully pulpit. But I'm not willing or quite ready to throw this guy, overboard yet. I think it's a little too early for that. Now, if we have a disastrous midterms, if it's a red crushing wave on the beach, now does your buddy Obama call you up and say, hey, Joe, you had a good run. You're forever known as the president. Let's call it one and done.
I heard that Obama urged him not to run last time around, actually.
If you believe some of the reporting early on, Obama was very supportive of Elizabeth Warren.
Right.
And that's another candidate, Elizabeth Warren. I was speaking about her outside to a friend of mine before. And I said, very dynamic candidate. If I could have picked and placed the president, it would have been Elizabeth Warren. Now, I supported Bernie Sanders mostly because of the 2016 run. I thought he was better positioned to win the nomination in 2020. You got to lose one to win one, I thought. I came around to Joe Biden when he eventually won the nomination. I voted for Joe and I supported Joe. And I'm not ready to throw Joe overboard. There's nothing about it's been boring and the accomplishments have been, whatever. But it's not
a great messenger. Not great message. And I just think people were sick of Trump. They wanted a breather from Trump. They got their breather. A lot of people aren't happy with what's going on. I think it'd be much better to have Elizabeth Warren run or Sherrod Brown, senator from Ohio, run. He's a good candidate too. Isn't that an admission of weakness on behalf of the Democrats? You got to run with the incumbent, man. You can't. I mean, it's not a commandment. It's not necessary.
Is he in primary territory at this point? Can you see any Democrat? I don't mean Tulsi Gabbard.
Oh, God.
I mean a Democrat like Bernie threatened to primary Obama in 2012. And I think in no small part, that's why Obama helped push Joe Biden. And a few of the candidates, I think Buttigieg got a call from Obama.
Yeah,
I think Amy Klobuchar got a call from Obama.
That was outrageous too, I thought. I mean, let the people decide, not the kingmaker. And maybe we would have had a Bernie Sanders Trump matchup, and maybe Bernie would have been president today. So anyway, I thought that was
you understand that politics is also about personalities and egos. And when a guy says maybe I should primary the incumbent president, well, the incumbent president may not have a personal affection for Bernie going forward.
I thought Bernie was right to consider primarying him too, because Obama wasn't acting like a progressive once he got into office. I mean, he let the bankers off the hook. He's a Wall Street guy. There was reason for Bernie to stand on principle and say, maybe I should primary that guy. He's not going to primary Biden now.
No, Bernie wouldn't, but could you see some young upstart? It's not
I don't see
Kamala, but
no, Biden's would have to back out if there's a disaster in November. At some point, he's going to have to change his mind and not run for re-election. Then it's Kamala Harris, Sherrod Brown, Elizabeth Warren, Buttigieg.
Could you see the U.S. Supreme Court's ruling, especially, I believe it's Dobbs, the Roe v. Wade ruling? Could you see that changing the entire dynamic of the midterms?
It could be. And here in Wisconsin, it would mean we'd have a law that was passed in 1849 outlawing abortion. That would be the law of the state, if you can believe that. A law that was passed 50, 60 years before women even had the right to vote.
That's Matt Rothschild. He's my co-devil for the rest of the hour. Dallas, 844-967-2789.
Taking your kids to their first baseball game. Getting back to the moments we miss starts with getting informed. Get the latest info about COVID-19 vaccines at getvaccineanswers.org. It's up to you. Brought to you by the Ad Council.
Treat yourself to some Wisco Home Goods natural lotions or sugar scrub in 2022. I'm Don, one of the owners of this family-owned Midwestern business in Madison, Wisconsin. Our natural hand soaps, lotions, and sugar scrubs offer you the luxury you deserve. Wisco Home Goods self-care products come in a variety of scents you're sure to love. So go on, add a little pampering to your daily routine. Order at wiscohomegoods.com. Natural, healthy, nourishing self-care and more at wiscohomegoods.com.
The Devil's Advocates, because freedom.
But Don, we've been following a couple of big stories this week. Truck convoy leader has no idea where he is and is driving in circles around I-495. He didn't know precisely where he was going anyways or where he was at the time. Apparently, he put the convoy back on the road, headed back up north, and he's back in Scranton. So
I totally would have protested this tyranny, but damn, the traffic was so bad.
Follow the Devil's Advocates on Facebook and Twitter.
Hi there, I'm Kirk Bankstad and I own the Monaco Brewing Company. And I also have a super PAC. We make good trouble in the North Woods of Wisconsin. You can support our efforts at the MonacoBrewingCompany.com and buy our woke gear like t-shirts, hoodies, and trucker hats. Enter the code RADIO and get 10% off on your next purchase. A portion of all sales support the Monaco Brewing Company Super PAC, which is dark money meant for good. That's the MonacoBrewingCompany.com.
The Devil's Advocates, tackling the issues you're not allowed to talk about at the dinner table.
welcome back to the Devil's Advocates Radio Show, the Tuesday edition. Got Evan lightly screening your calls, 844-967-2789. I got Matt Rothschild here for a bit longer. Co-Devlin with me. We'll take a few more calls in just a moment. But Matt, I want to ask you, you wrote an op-ed recently about the Wisconsin Supreme Court, the flip-flop of the Hagedorn, and the new ruling on the redistricting maps, the gerrymandered redistricting maps. And now the Republicans got their way.
Yeah,
your thoughts.
Yeah, this was just a disgraceful reversal by Justice Hagedorn, who had said in his first ruling about a month and a half ago that, look, we're going to take Governor Evers's maps. And I applauded him for doing that. And he said, one of the reasons we're going to take Governor Evers's maps, well, he followed our instructions better than anybody else. We said lease changes, which I thought was a terrible thing. The lease changes to the maps of 2011, which were rigged ridiculously by the Republicans. But that's what the conservatives, including Hagedorn, said that all the parties to the lawsuit had to do. And then Evers came through with a map that was accomplishing that goal better than even the Republicans did. He beat the Republicans at their own game. And then, of course, the Republicans, being bad losers, tried all the way to the U.S. Supreme Court, and the U.S. Supreme Court sent it back to the Wisconsin Supreme Court and scolded Hagedorn for writing a decision that didn't adequately explain the ins and outs of the Voting Rights Act, which I don't want to get into right now. And so what happened? Well, the Wisconsin Supreme Court had to decide what to do, and they had to decide by last Friday because candidates had to start putting in their nomination papers and had to know what districts they were in. But Hagedorn finally decided to go with his Republican colleagues 4-3 and actually accept the maps that the Republicans had introduced in the legislature that Evers had vetoed. This is a real separation of powers problem. Justice Karofsky in her dissent pointed it out. I mean, you can't have the Wisconsin Supreme Court act as though it's a body that can override a governor's veto and just pass the law that the Republicans weren't able to pass themselves in the legislature.
Well, that's an excellent point you make, but and I'm not trying to defend Hagedorn's ruling, not the second one, certainly. But what option did the U.S. Supreme Court leave him when they said we reject the Evers maps because you've misread the Voting Rights Act?
Well, they left him a lot of options. Actually, they didn't reject the Evers maps. They threw it back to the Wisconsin Supreme Court and said, you didn't argue sufficiently or comprehensively about the Voting Rights Act to support.
But you kind of saw this coming when Evers wanted to send more information down and they said, no, thanks.
Well, and that no thanks, Hagedorn had to sign on to that no thanks. Otherwise, the liberals would have said, yeah, please send us more. So that was Hagedorn's fault for not allowing Evers to send more information to the Wisconsin Supreme Court that might have said, yeah, here my maps are okay. And here's my, here, let me show my work more and give you more argumentation. Or they could have hired an expert. A lot of courts do this during redistricting. Hire an expert, keep the Evers maps except for the Milwaukee area, have your expert draw the remaining districts around Milwaukee and call it a day. But they decided not to do that either. And so I think both the scolding from the Wisconsin Supreme Court and the really sarcastic and snarky criticism he got from his other Republican colleagues on the bench and the lack of time, he just kind of threw up his hands and threw in the towel.
844-967-2789, taking some calls while there's time. Jackie from Milwaukee, say hi to Matt Rothschild.
Hi.
Hey, Jackie.
I'm going back a little bit because I heard you talk about Bernie. And I'm probably on the wrong topic now.
That's fine.
That's okay. We're just talking here, Jackie.
Okay. I would love to see Bernie run again. I thought he'd be all burnt out by now, but he's not. And if he had like a female VP, he had a lot of votes. We kind of did him in. The people, they didn't want him. Nobody wanted him, but the people did. About the Supreme Court, yeah, Wisconsin Supreme Court's a joke. I don't know. I don't even want to live in this state anymore. It's just it's just getting destroyed. Republicans are running everything and they're taking everything down. I mean, really.
Jackie, here's the good news. We could actually do something about the Wisconsin Supreme Court next spring. We can change the balance of the court for the better in next spring. And the last time this opportunity presented itself was the Lisa Neubauer Hagedorn race. So we don't like Hagedorn's ruling in this case. I think he's shown himself to be something of a judicial independent. Certainly he's no Dan Kelly, who was the last Republican to lose overwhelmingly to Karofsky. But let's not forget, Hagedorn only won his seat by 5,600 votes. That's the whole margin of the 4-3 Wisconsin Supreme Court. And next spring, we get a crack. I believe it's at
Roggensack's retiring. So the whole balance of the Wisconsin Supreme Court is up for grabs next spring.
Really?
And no incumbent.
Oh my gosh. So no incumbent. So there needs to be somebody running against him?
Yeah. I'm sure there'll be a good.
How do you find that?
I'm sure there'll be a good, very well qualified jurist who's going to run with some progressive credentials. And I don't know who's going to run on the other side, but I've got a hint that it might be.
Who do you think it's going to be?
It might be the guy who's running the circus that's never going to leave town.
Oh, you think Gableman's going to run again?
They run again.
Oh,
God. Well, thanks for the tip, because I can't wait to tell everybody, because this has got to change. This is getting ridiculous. People laugh at me. When I'm talking about people in other states, they laugh at the conditions here. It's just so ridiculous. And so, Republicans, they just follow everything one Republican says. They all do the same thing, which is good for them in a way. At least Dems have a little bit of critical thinking, so that's not why we all go the same direction all the time, but we use our brain, So,
sorry to cut you short, Jackie. I want to get to a few more calls, but unfortunately with the Democrats, it's herding cats. 844-967-2789. Another one from Milwaukee. PT, welcome back, PT. Say hi to Matt.
Hey, Matt.
Hey, PT. Thanks for calling.
It was sure. It was very interesting listening to Mel Barnes and the associate there talk about what the options are. And I think we do have some options. It's just not going to happen before the elections. But getting to Hagedorn, I think Hagedorn demonstrated his incompetence in sitting down and writing out a full explanation of why the Evers maps and why they expanded those black districts. Instead, he took the lazy man's way out and he said, "Oh, help me, dear justices," and he went on their side. And they could have done this 2 weeks ago. Instead, they waited to the last day. It's disgraceful, and it showed his incompetence or his laziness or his guts, really, in standing up for those Evers maps.
PT, I agree with you that he just kind of had a failing of guts, of courage here. I mean, he dilly-dallied around the whole, all the conservatives there waited for their decision 2 times here. But, it's not over. I do think it's possible to sue under the Voting Rights Act to say that these maps violate the Voting Rights Act. And as Trudy was suggesting, if there's a different composition of the Wisconsin Supreme Court after next spring, we can bring the case back to the Wisconsin Supreme Court and get better maps.
Yeah, but theoretically, even with the changing of the court's balance, that in paneling to the court doesn't happen until like end of July. In probability, if you're going to sue over these maps, A, you're going to miss this elective cycle, and B.
Hi, this is Brad from Zero Res. If you need someone to help with your carpet cleaning, business or residence, please give us a call. We have the best system available and an amazing team of friendly technicians. Call us at 848-9000 or schedule online at zeroresmadison.com.
Devil Radio has been kicking ass, earning every listener, and providing our sponsors return on investment 3 years now on the Madison airwaves. And there has never been a better time than right now to advertise with us and join the Devil Radio community. Our audience is loyal and growing every day. Active listeners that don't flip. Wonder if your ad dollars are working? Devil Radio listeners will tell you it works. Ad production is included. Devil Radio will make it easy for you to start seeing return on your investment. Call today.
Listen to the Empowered Caregiver Show each Saturday and Sunday morning at 9 a.m. with hosts Liza Hellenbrand and Kristen Voss.
Right here on Devil Radio 92.7, WTTN 1580 AM, and the Devil Radio app.
You are listening to WTTN 1580 AM Columbus, W224 EG Madison, always streaming on the Devil Radio.
AP News. I'm Ed Donahue. The family of Patrick Lyoya in Michigan released an independent autopsy that shows the black man was shot in the back of the head by a white Michigan police officer while face down on the ground. Lyoya was stopped by an officer in Grand Rapids. Dr. Werner Spitz performed the autopsy.
The only injury on this body was a typical bullet wound of entrance.
Spitz says he believes the gun was pressed against Lyoya's head when the officer fired. Also in Michigan, a judge, Cheryl Matthews, denied a motion to reduce bond for James and Jennifer Crumley, the jailed parents of a teenager charged in the shooting at Oxford High School that left 4 of his fellow students dead.
The defendant's actions were premeditated to conceal their whereabouts.
The parents are accused of failing to keep a gun secure at home and failing to reasonably care for their son when he showed signs of mental distress. They pleaded not guilty. Johnny Depp denied he abused his ex-wife. He testified in his libel lawsuit against Amber Heard. Here's the AP's Margie Zaraletta.
Johnny Depp acknowledges his mother abused him as a child, but he tells a court outside Washington he never struck Amber Heard or any woman. Depp says he and Heard got along great after they married in 2015, until they didn't.
Within a year and a half, she had become this another person almost.
Depp says Heard libeled him in a 2018 Washington Post op-ed piece about domestic violence, even though she did not mention Depp by name. Heard is expected to testify later in the trial. I'm Margie Zaraletta.
President Biden is launching a $6 billion effort to bail out distressed nuclear power plants in a bid to boost carbon-free electricity. A certification and bidding process opened today. Russia is pouring in more troops and pressing the attack in eastern Ukraine. Wall Street, the Dow finished up 459 points. This is AP News.
I'm Joel Clark, a Select Quote agent, with a true story that could save you hundreds of dollars a year. A woman named Linda just called. Her husband, Ray, has a group life insurance policy, but is changing jobs and he can't take it with him. Well, I went to work and found Ray, who's 40 and takes medication to control his high blood pressure, a 10-year, $500,000 policy for only $19 a month. That's way more coverage for a lot less than what he was paying. If SelectQuote didn't shop for your life insurance, you're probably paying too much.
For your free quote and to find out how much you can save, call 1-800-597-2010. That's 1-800-597-2010. 1-800-597-2010. Or go to selectquote.com. Since 1985, we shop, you save.
Get full details on the example policies at selectquote.com/commercials. Your premium could vary depending on your health, issuing company, and other factors. Not available in all states.
It could be. It might be. It is. Devil Radio 92.7.
420 is almost here. On April 20th, get everything you need to celebrate at Knucklehead CBD and Vapes at their 420 at 520 shop party during the biggest sale of the year. With giveaways like swag, trays, smoking accessories, even a gold volcano vaporizer. You won't want to miss it. Join Knuckleheads on April 20th, located at 520 State Street in Madison. Come be a part of the legendary 420 at 520.
Listen to your favorite political talkers no matter where you are. 92.7 FM in Madison and Eastern Dane County. 1580 AM Columbus, north of Madison, and for daytime east-west commutes on I-94. 101 FM in the Shaw, and 540 AM covering eastern Wisconsin all day and covering the Milwaukee Metro, the Wild Counties, Racine, and Kenosha 24/7. Download the free Devil Radio app for your smartphone and take both stations with you everywhere. No excuses, just listen.
3, 2, 1, 0.
Hey, it's Rocker, and I'm lifting off from Sal's Tomato Pies, enjoying a brand new cocktail called the Cosmonaut. It's an improved take on the classic cocktail with Madison-made Rocker vodka, featuring orange liqueur, house-made citrus cordial, lime, and cranberry. Experience liftoff with the Cosmonaut, the new cocktail featuring Rocker vodka at Sal's Tomato Pies in Sun Prairie, Madison, and the Dark Horse Art Bar. Must be 21. Please drink responsibly.
Stay informed with progressive news and talk on WTTN 1580 AM, Wisconsin's home for Devil Radio.
For Devil Radio 92.7 FM and WTTN 1580 AM. I'm Luke Mathers with your headlines. According to the Wisconsin Department of Health Services, new reports of COVID-19 cases are on the rise in Wisconsin, with the 7-day rolling positivity percentage nearly doubling over the past 3 weeks. On Monday, the state health department reported a positivity rate of 5.9%. That is just one statistic the Wisconsin DHS is monitoring to get a picture of how COVID-19 is spreading across the state, taking into consideration total new cases and monitoring municipal wastewater as well. As of last week, Milwaukee, Racine, Kenosha, and St. Croix counties had seen an uptick in COVID-19 detection in their wastewater. 64% of Wisconsinites had received at least one dose of COVID-19 vaccine. Partly cloudy skies expected today with winds from 10 to 15 miles an hour and a high of 49 degrees. Cloudy skies in the forecast this evening with light and variable winds and an overnight low of 38 degrees. You're listening to Devil Radio 92.7 FM and WTTN 1580 AM.
Devil Radio programming is produced live in the Solidarity Realty Studios. Find them at solidarityrealty.com. Solidarity Realty. There is an alternative.
Warning, you are about to listen to the greatest radio show ever. And due to contractual obligations and to shield our airwaves and corporate licensees from any semblance of liability, responsibility, and gullibility, we must tell you the views represented on this show are not necessarily those of this station or its management. This radio show contains differing points of view on current political topics, and due to the nature of its contents, it should be heard by everyone. Thank you for listening. 3, 2, 1. Now live from the Devil Radio Studios in Madison, Wisconsin, where the political party is just beginning. Welcome to the Devil's Advocate Show. Friends proving it's never personal, only politics.
Please allow me to introduce myself.
Here is your host, Mike Crute.
Welcome back. Hour 2 of the Tuesday edition of the Devil's Advocates Radio Show. We welcome Fancy Brian to the airwaves. How you doing, Big Fancy?
I'm all right. Things are all right.
And Evan Oh, I'm sorry. Didn't mean to interrupt. I was
I
just going to
passed
say
my
hi to Evan again.
Had some appointments. I passed them with flying colors. Hi, Evan. How are you?
Evan here in Madison in the Devil Radio World Headquarters, lightly screening the calls at 844-967-2789. You missed them, but we had Batman, Matt Rothschild from the Wisconsin Democracy Campaign. Always makes a fine guest and a fine co-devil. Thank you, Matt Rothschild. And tomorrow in the 3 o'clock hour, we've got my Congressman, Mark Pocan, a long-form interview, like 3:30 to 4 o'clock. It's been a while. So Mark's
It
coming
has
back.
been a while.
Mark joins us on Wednesday. What a hump day indeed. And Dominic will join us in the happier hour about an hour from now. But Fancy Brian, when you say test, not a COVID test, right?
No. Just a little eating of eggs and seeing how fast they go through me.
Oh, that's excellent. Yeah,
Radioactive eggs, in fact.
Going through you part, I hope, is good. Good.
Absolutely.
Means
so good.
The tracks are all back on track.
Everything works. I'm going to do a testimonial for the procedure. It's fantastic.
That is outstanding, my friend. But here's what I mean. COVID's over, baby. The mask mandates are over. The pandemic's over.
Thank you.
We won.
I was
Mission
worried.
accomplished.
That's great. Good to hear.
Did you hear a Trump appointee to the federal bench has overturned the mask mandate for travel on airplanes?
That's great, considering I'm flying on an airplane next week.
Yeah, going to Disney with the kids. Now, it doesn't mean you couldn't wear a mask, but of course, all the Trump supportive, perhaps COVID infected, well, they can't be mandated.
Those who are over it, okay? They're just over it and just tired, okay?
I am so over tyrannical mask mandates. The logic behind the ruling, a little sketchy, as my kids like to say. I've got a little information on that. We'll get there in a minute, but I think we've got some sound from the president. So what are you going to do? Do you have to wear a mask on an airplane? What's the procedure here? Let's get to President Joe Biden. Cut 14, please.
That's up to them.
I guess that's a do whatever you're going to do.
That's up to them.
One more from President Joe Biden. The question, have you spoken to the CDC? What do they think about this judge's ruling? Here's the president's response. Cut 15.
I haven't spoken to the CDC yet.
So sort of brief and to the point today. It's up to you or them, as the case may be, to wear a mask or not wear a mask on an airplane.
That's up to them.
Yeah, it's up to you. And he hasn't spoken to the CDC. So
I haven't spoken to the CDC yet.
Yes. Thank you, Joe. We do have a little more information from his communications person, Jen Psaki. Again, this on the topic of the COVID and no longer mask mandates on airplanes. It was supposed to be done in a couple of weeks anyways. But here's what Jen Psaki had to say today. Cut 17, if you would, guys.
We're continuing to encourage people to wear masks in public transit. They'll make that decision because it's obviously not being implemented at this moment in time, but we'll continue to abide by CDC guidance.
Well, it's kind of up to them, right? More Jen Psaki on behalf of the Biden administration. Will they appeal? Cut 18.
As we've said, agencies are reviewing next steps, including the Department of Justice. Traditionally, following court decision, that can take a couple of days.
One or two more from Psaki. Let's do 19, if you would, please.
We obviously feel confident in our authorities here, given we put the mask mandate in place and asked for 15 additional days to evaluate data based on public health information.
And one more from the Biden communications team, Jen Psaki, cut 20.
If the CDC changes their assessment, which certainly at some point they will, we would follow that guidance.
So the guidance currently, because the CDC, my understanding, has lowered the risk in all states. So the CDC is not currently recommending masks, and the federal courts, a Trump appointee specifically, has ruled that, you can't be forced to wear one on an airplane. But how she reached her conclusion was kind of sketchy. And, I can't litigate what's in the judge's ears, between them anyways, but I can judge what she put on paper. And I'm going to use an article at the Washington Post, the support of journalist Aaron Blake in this case. Whether or not to wear a mask mandate all came down to who or whom. I don't know which use is proper because I don't know, but whose dictionary one chooses the definition of the word sanitation from. Because there are multiple definitions of that word. And she even acknowledges one could mean wearing a mask. But I'm going to choose the other definition. And that is how she came to the conclusion that the mask mandate should be overruled on airplanes. Because she found a dictionary that defines sanitation differently. Seems like an odd conclusion. This particular jurist, not qualified, according to the American Bar Association. She was like the final Trump appointee to the courts, 33 years old, and she was put on the courts after Trump lost his reelection bid. Although don't ask him, he's still claiming he won. So just setting the stage for, this fine judicial ruling. The judge who nixed the transit mask mandate and her logic explained. Aaron Blake, the nationwide mask mandate for commercial airliners and public transportation was halted Monday by the U.S. District Court judge. For some, the change took effect mid-flight. Yeah, I heard when the story broke yesterday. I was in the car driving back, flipping radio stations everywhere. I was in Southern Illinois. So I flipped stations all the way from St. Louis to TMJ to Chicago. I mean, I had them all. And they made the announcement, I heard, on one of our competitors in Milwaukee, and they were all gleeful. Like, I wonder if people at TSA know you don't have to wear a mask. Like, if I was in line, I'd be showing the article to TSA, like, I don't want to wear a mask. I'm thinking, man, you guys are kind of jumping in the anti-mask thing. Do you have a flight later today? And was it really bothering you to think, you might have to protect someone else's safety other than your own? But let me jump into the logic, quote unquote, behind this ruling. Almost immediately, critics noted the resume of the judge responsible, Catherine Kimball Mizell. She was nominated to the federal bench by President Donald Trump and confirmed by a GOP-controlled Senate in Trump's lame duck period in 2020, despite being rated as not qualified by the American Bar Association. Then 33 years old, she was one of the youngest people ever appointed to the federal judiciary. At the time, she had practiced law for 4 years and had tried 2 cases to verdict, both while interning for the state attorney's office before she had graduated from law school. So she's had 2 cases in her career, 2, while she was an intern in law school. But now she's a federal judge. What can we learn about breaking down the actual logic of her decision? Oh, you can learn a lot about the definition of the word sanitation. I'll share. In it, Mizell ruled that the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention overstepped its authority. It did so, she ruled, in large part because the mask mandate doesn't qualify as a sanitation measure. And they got sanitation in quotes here in the Blake article. This is surely a very narrow reading of the law in question. One critic called it textualism ad absurdum. But just how narrow? At issue is a 1944 law called the Public Health Service Act, which authorizes the Surgeon General, and I'm going to quote from the law here, to make and enforce such regulations as in his judgment, because back then it was always a dude, right? In his judgment, are necessary to prevent the introduction, transmission, or spread of a communicable disease. It adds that to do so, the Surgeon General, emphasis added. Now, you can't see the emphasis, but I'll tell you where it's at. Starts right now. May provide for such inspection, fumigation, disinfection, sanitation, pest elimination, destruction of animals or articles found to be so infected or contaminated as to be sources of dangerous infection to human beings. Does that include Tucker Carlson? And other measures as in his judgment may be necessary. Now let's bold it at the end. And other measures as his judgment may be necessary. Perhaps a mask mandate, but let me read on. Mizell said that the second section restricts the first, meaning the mask mandate had to qualify as one of those types of measures. The government argued that it was a sanitation measure. She said, this is where we get to the crux of the matter. Mizell wrote that since the word sanitation is not defined in the statute, the term's ordinary meaning from when the law was enacted must be established. For this, she consults contemporaneous dictionaries. Some, she summarized, define sanitation as to clean something, while some defined it as to keep something clean. She even acknowledged that the latter definition would include air filters or barriers, masks, gowns, or other personal protective equipment, justifying a mask mandate. But she then decided she must choose between the two definitions, that the statute can't encompass multiple understandings of sanitation. While the latter definition would appear to cover the mask mandate, the former definition would preclude it. Accordingly, the court must determine which of the two senses is the best reading of the statute. Guess which one she chose? The 33-year-old not qualified Trump appointee. Guess which one she chose?
The bounce off me and sticks to you, that type of mandate, that one?
That very close to her reading of the definition from a 1947 dictionary of the term sanitation, or at least the one she chose. Come back, more devils.
Will you wear a mask? That's up to them.
Did you see the memo about this?
I haven't spoken to the CDC yet.
So I don't have any clue of what he's talking about. Get over it.
Make it the greatest radio show ever. The Devil's Advocates is my passion. It must be. I've been doing it for a decade. Running two Wisconsin radio stations, providing the only platforms of truth and resistance against fascism in a critical swing state. That's a vital mission and a tremendous responsibility. And it all costs money. So support the mission and the show. Join and give at patreon.com at the Devil's Advocates Radio. Help me change hearts and minds and just maybe save democracy.
President Trump lost the election. Joe Biden won the election.
Collectively, Republicans got 1.661 million votes, 51,000 more votes than Trump got.
He exhausted his cases. He exhausted the court challenges.
All the Republicans voted for Trump the way they voted for the assembly candidates. He would have won.
It was not rigged. It was not stolen. Donald Trump lost the election. Joe Biden won the election. It's really clear.
This message was paid for by the People for People Corporation. Donate online at p4ppc.org.
Save the $2 on tomorrow's paper. Listen to the Devil's Advocates today.
My senator and yours, Ron Johnson. See a big story about him at the Hill this week in Hill.com. Wisconsin Democrats and Republicans both want Ron to run, but for different reasons. I think some Democrats think, oh, he's just so crazy. Of course we'll beat him, which is what they said about Trump too. Miss that guy? Not much. Not much. He used to come around.
Check out the entire podcast library at darnwi.com.
Spruce up your home with soy candles from Wisco Home Goods. I'm Don, one of the owners of this family-owned Midwestern business in Madison, Wisconsin. Our candles are 100% sustainable and come in a variety of unique blends and scents. Did you know our candle jars are also double old-fashioned glasses? That's right, buy a candle and you get a free cocktail glass. Check out our blog at wiscohomegoods.com/blog for more information. That's wiscohomegoods.com/blog.
Don't be afraid of your freedom.
The Devil's Advocates, because freedom.
Well, turn it up, man. Freedom!
Welcome back to the Devil's Advocates Radio Show, the Tuesday edition. Welcome back from the 420 break. The mask mandates, they're done, man. It's free out there. Free ball and freedom, whatever you want to say. You know, it's free. It's your choice whether or not you want to infect, you know, your seatmate on an airplane, or whether you can take a simple, modest act like wearing a mask for, 2-3 hours. Seems like a big deal. A lot to ask.
But Crudy, that's usually what
strong Republican argument you make there.
I just wanted to say, and also,
well, let me get back to the argument of the Trump-appointed jurist who overturned the mask mandate. Judge Mizell. Mizell's statement that the definition she favored would preclude counting masks as sanitation also seems debatable, according to this article by Aaron Blake, when she acknowledges that a 1942 Webster's dictionary defines sanitation to include rendering sanitary, a key word there being include. While we don't have the particular edition at our fingertips, a 1949 book described Webster's definition at the time as also including the use of sanitary measures, with sanitary meaning pertaining to public health. Earlier works confirmed this was part of Webster's definition. So she had to pick and choose a very select dictionary to find the very limited definition of the word sanitation that fit her purposes, which was to what? Overturn a tyrannical mask mandate on airplanes and public transit. Those are optional activities, right? You don't have to fly. You don't have to take a bus.
See, I just spent most of the day in a hospital getting a procedure or just going through tests, and I had to wear a mask the entire time, and I seem to have made it through just fine. I'm alive. It's great. It worked out fine. And you know what? Since I'm trusting the guys to send radioactive eggs through my body, I'm going to trust the recommendation on, I don't know, maybe wear a mask sometimes. Thanks.
Your doctor's tyrannical, man. Let me get back to this article. The decision will certainly be scrutinized. Judge Mizell was one of several Trump-nominated judges confirmed, despite the American Bar Association not rating her as qualified, something that rarely happens with federal judicial nominees. A lot of Trumps. Many of them were young, as is Mizell, now 35. I can barely remember when I was 35. One nominee struggled during confirmation hearings to answer basic questions about the law and later withdrew his nomination. Unlike Mizell, the ABA emphasized that its rating pertained to Mizell's lack of experience. Come on, she tried 2 cases in college as an intern, given that she had not tried a case, civil or criminal, as lead or co-counsel. So the fact that she never actually tried a case at the bar, troubling to the American Bar Association, and not the sort of bar that Scott Fitzgerald finds on his way home, a different sort of bar, if you know what I'm saying.
I have a pretty good feeling that between you and Dom, you actually have more experience within a court than this justice does.
Oh, I've been the plaintiff. I've been the defendant more than once. Oh, no, I've got many hours in courts of law. Never as a lawyer.
But more experience than this young lady might have had.
I was accused once by defense counsel of practicing law without a license. They won the day. Then I went and hired a lawyer and sued him back and won back. But anyways, I digress. Let's get back to this little topic at hand: the ending of the mask mandate on public transportation, including airplanes, by a Trump-appointed judge who was called not, what's the term? What is it called?
Good?
Not qualified. My bad. Not qualified by the American Bar Association. The ABA did also state that she has a very keen intellect, a strong work ethic, and an impressive resume, and that her integrity and demeanor are not in question. No, it's the fact that she's never actually been a practicing lawyer before. That's what they question. Mizell's logic is similar to that of many other Republican-appointed judges, including Supreme Court Justice for whom she clerked, Clarence Thomas. If you're going to clerk for any of these Supreme Court justices, I wouldn't see Thomas's, I'd try to find anyone else.
Maybe not his expertise there.
I mean, even Alito, come on, man. There's got to be better than Clarence. More here. It certainly tracks with the Supreme Court saying last year that the coronavirus era eviction moratorium didn't qualify under the same statute, though in that case, the eviction moratorium was even more difficult to attach to the PHSA. I don't know what that means. I'm sorry, folks. And this decision also follows on years of fighting in the courts over the executive branch's authority in times of a pandemic. The question now, Aaron Blake writes in conclusion, is whether the Biden administration tries to assert that authority by appealing the decision. At that point, we could get a sense of how other judges view Judge Mizell's logic, regardless of her qualifications as Blake rights, or as the American Bar Association would say, her lack of qualifications. They found her unqualified. Yet this ruling sets the standard for everywhere. Until it's overruled, until there's an appeal, it's up to you. I'm sure all the MAGA people out there in the world, they'll all do the right thing.
You can trust them.
Well, I know I don't like wearing a mask and it's not forced upon me, but since I'm going to be in an enclosed space, sitting very close to my seat neighbor, big guy says he's going to Disney. Well, maybe I'll just wear a mask, even as a optional sort of thing. Maybe I'll do the right thing.
I'm going to wear my mask just to piss off other people. Like the people who aren't wearing, I'm just going to wear it to look at them. Not in a mean way, just in a, hi, how you doing?
Fancy. I got a son who's been wearing a mask the entire time, doing the right thing. And he's not going to stop wearing a mask because some judge, some 33-year-old says, depends on what the definition of sanitation is. And if anybody messes with that kid, I'm going to kick them right in their tan testicles. Come back with us. Do you see Tucker's tanning his testicles? We'll talk about that perhaps as well.
I got so many things to say. No time.
Devils, it's a Tuesday. We'll come back. There'll be more time.
I think people will do what's right. They don't need a government mandate to do that.
From Wanakee to McFarland, 92.7 FM is essential radio to get you through the pandemic.
Hi, this is Brad from Zero Res. If you need someone to help with your carpet cleaning, business or residence, please give us a call. We have the best system available and an amazing team of friendly technicians. Call us at 848-9000 or schedule online at zeroresmadison.com.
Listen to Devil Radio 92.7 and WTTN 1580 AM, Madison's home for progressive news talk radio. Tune in for the political party that is the Devil's Advocates Radio Show every day from 3 to 6 p.m. Join Native Roots Radio from 6 to 7 p.m. for updates about Native news, culture, and activism. The 7 o'clock hour is for local programming, including the Paul Revere Show on Mondays, Busted Pencils on Tuesdays, and the Up North Podcast on Wednesdays.
Listen to the Empowered Caregiver Show each Saturday and Sunday morning at 9 a.m. with hosts Liza Hellenbrand and Kristen Voss.
Right here on Devil Radio 92.7, WTTN 1580 AM, and the Devil Radio.
Mask mandate. I'm Tim McGuire with an AP News Minute. A federal judge's decision throwing out the federal transportation mask mandate was greeted as great news by some passengers on planes, trains, and buses. Patricia Mann, who was at Washington Dulles, was asked about how she feels.
I'm so glad. This is adding to my pleasure of flying again.
But Srinivas Pucharaju, flying back from India, says people from all over the world are flying on planes in the U.S.
I'm coming from India. I had a connection in Dubai. So there are people from all over the world. We don't know what's happening elsewhere. So it's in the interest of, my own interest as well as the interest of other passengers to be masked.
Major airlines and airports in Dallas, Atlanta, Los Angeles, Salt Lake City quickly switched to a mask optional policy. New York City, Chicago, Los Angeles, and Connecticut continue to require them on mass transit. But a host of other cities have ditched the mandates, even though the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention continues to recommend masking on transportation. I'm Tim McGuire.
I'm Joel Clark, a Select Quote agent, with a true story that could save you hundreds of dollars a year. A woman named Linda just called. Her husband, Ray, has a group life insurance policy, but is changing jobs and he can't take it with him. Well, I went to work and found Ray, who's 40 and takes medication to control his high blood pressure, a 10-year, $500,000 policy for only $19 a month. That's way more coverage for a lot less than what he was paying. If SelectQuote didn't shop for your life insurance, you're probably paying too much.
For your free quote and to find out how much you can save, call 1-800-597-2010. That's 1-800-597-2010. 1-800-597-2010. Or go to selectquote.com. Since 1985, we shop, you save.
Get full details on the example policies at selectquote.com/commercials. Your premium could vary depending on your health, issuing company, and other factors. Not available in all states.
For Devil Radio 92.7 FM and WTTN 1580 AM, I'm Luke Mathers with your headlines. This week, Madison Mayor Satya Rhodes Conway has put forth a proposal to spend $425,000 on a no-bid contract in order for a company to design a filtration system for a city well that has identified elevated levels of PFAS or forever chemicals. Mayor Rhodes Conway said the system is needed for well 15 to get back online, and a no-bid contract is necessary to speed up the process so the city can get in line for federal grant funding that is expected to become available next year. This week, U.S. Senator Ron Johnson claimed the GOP's plan to eliminate Social Security and raise taxes on 32% of Wisconsinites if Republicans take over Congress this fall is, quote, a positive thing. The Milwaukee Brewers beat the Pittsburgh Pirates last night 6-1. Christian Yelich's first home run of the season came as a grand slam to seal the Crews' victory. You're listening to Devil Radio 92.7 FM and WTTN 1580 AM.
The Devil's Advocates, making radio great again.
Welcome back to the Devil's Advocates Radio Show, a Tuesday edition. Another legal update. This one you're going to like a little better than the Trump jurist ruling that mask mandates are thrown out. It's optional now. Do you want to wear a mask on a train, a plane, an airplane, a bus? Well, no, I didn't necessarily want to wear one, but I did. Mostly because it was mandated. And even though I know it's the right thing to do and the safe thing to do, you know, a lot of us, we don't do the right thing unless somebody's watching or telling us to do the right thing. I know I'm not the only one. Right? We'd all be skinny, beautiful people working out every day. And I know that's not.
I don't necessarily think that that's the case to be healthy either. You don't have to be skinny or working out every day to be healthy. Just throwing that out there. But that's a totally different tangent, but I got you.
That's a substantially different tangent. Here's the legal update that you're going to like better. Legal effort to remove Marjorie Taylor Greene from the Georgia ballot can proceed, a judge says. Eugene Scott reporting at the Washington Post. A federal judge ruled Monday that a group of Georgia voters can proceed with their legal effort to disqualify Rep. Marjorie Taylor Greene from running for re-election because of her alleged role in the January 6, 2021 attack on the U.S. Capitol by a pro-Trump mob. Free Speech for People, a national election and campaign finance group, filed a challenge in March with the Georgia Secretary of State's office, alleging that Greene, who has built a reputation as one of the former president's, Donald Trump's most fervent supporters, helped facilitate the violent insurrection aimed at preventing Congress from confirming Joe Biden's win. The organization also filed a similar lawsuit on behalf of North Carolina voters to prevent Rep. Madison Cawthorn from running for re-election because of his alleged role in the storming of the Capitol, but was initially unsuccessful. I understand that case is on appeal. The challenges claim that the lawmakers' actions violate a provision of the 14th Amendment and thus make them ineligible to run for re-election. The rarely cited provision of the amendment states that no one can serve in Congress who, and this is the quote from the statute, who, having previously taken an oath as a member of Congress to support the Constitution of the United States, shall have engaged in insurrection or rebellion against the same. The amendment was ratified shortly after the Civil War. The provision in question was meant to prevent lawmakers who fought for the Confederacy from being reelected to Congress. Now, Grade 47 has been accused of frequently using language to incite violence on the U.S. Capitol, including referring to efforts to challenge the results, declaring Biden the winner of the 2020 election, is our 1776 moment. She denies that she played a role in the event that led to the deaths of 5 people and injuries to 140 members of law enforcement. Although there was some rumor she was giving some tours around, but I read on from the reporting what can be substantiated. Greene filed a lawsuit earlier this month requesting that a judge block Georgia officials from enforcing the state law used by Free Speech for People in its challenge, arguing that it's unconstitutional. Greene also, and here's the quote, vigorously denied that she aided and engaged in insurrection to obstruct the peaceful transfer of presidential power. She denies it, strongly denies it. Judge Amy Totenberg, now this is a different judge than Mizell, the earlier referenced Trump appointee, who was appointed to the U.S. District Court for the Northern District of Georgia by President Barack Obama. Different president, right? Different outcome. Denied Green's request for a preliminary injunction and temporary restraining order in a 73-page ruling, saying that the lawmaker did not meet the burden of persuasion.
Just saying something is unconstitutional isn't the burden of persuasion you need. Just saying it and then saying, hey, where in the Constitution is it unconstitutional? And then going freedom and running away doesn't really work as a
well, when your arguments don't meet the threshold of being persuasive, Fancy Brian, here's what the judge wrote. Totenberg wrote, this case involves a whirlpool of colliding constitutional interest of public import. The novelty of the factual and historical posture of this case, especially when assessed in the context of the preliminary injunction motion reviewed on the fast track, has made resolution of this complex legal issues at stake here particularly demanding. Now, while expressing her disappointment with the lawsuit, Marjorie Taylor Greene suggested Monday on Fox News that Republicans could look into retaliatory efforts to disqualify Democratic lawmakers from re-election. When did they participate in an insurrection, MTG?
Unconstitutional. Freedom.
The Republican Party needs to fight harder, she told television host. Where would she run? Tucker. You know, because he has the tan testicles. Tucker show. If you could challenge any representative's candidacy or elected office holder, I bet we would round up some Republican voters who did not like Kamala Harris funding rioters, criminal rioters out of jail, or Representatives Ilhan Omar, Cory Bush, or Maxine Waters in inciting riots. I think there's another way to play this game.
Unconstitutional freedom.
Vice President Harris did not provide funding to get rioters released from jail, but following the 2020 murder of George Floyd, a Black Minneapolis resident, by police officers, Harris, then a senator from California, tweeted information about the Minnesota Freedom Fund, an organization that helped provide cash for bail for those protesting racism and police violence. Well, that's just the same as participating in an insurrection.
I mean, it's nearly identical.
Just weeks after Floyd's death, it raised an astonishing $35 million, in part because of tweets such as the one by Harris. In her appearance on Fox, Greene also complained about having to appear in court. I have to go to court on Friday and actually be questioned about something I never have been charged with and something I was completely against, she said. A little bit more. Ron Fine, legal director of Free Speech for People, told the Washington Post that his organization looks forward to questioning Greene under oath about her involvement in the January 6th attack. Here's what he said. It's rare for any conspirator, let alone a member of Congress, to publicly admit the goals of their actions are preventing a peaceful transfer of power and the death of the president-elect and Speaker of the House. But that's exactly what Marjorie Taylor Greene did. The Constitution disqualifies from public office any elected official who aided the insurrection, and we look forward to asking Representative Greene about her involvement under oath. Yeah, that's the important part, the under oath part. Any Georgia voter eligible to vote for a candidate can challenge that candidate's qualifications by filing a written complaint within 2 weeks after the deadline for qualifying, according to state law. The Secretary of State has to notify the candidate of the challenge before requesting a hearing before an administrative law judge. The judge goes on to hold a hearing before presenting findings to the Secretary of State before the state official determines whether the candidate is qualified. James Bopp Jr. Now, we've heard that name a couple of times recently, haven't we?
Oh, yeah.
James Bopp, a lawyer for Greene, did not respond immediately to requests for comments. Who else does he represent? Someone Google James Bopp for me. Georgia, what's that?
Just a second.
Georgia will be mailing absentee ballots next week for its May 24th primary. And Greene was recently mocked by late night television host Jimmy Kimmel for contacting U.S. Capitol Police over his jokes about her, the same police she refused to honor last June when she voted against awarding them the Congressional Gold Medal for defending the Capitol and lawmakers during the insurrection. Green had called some in her party pro-pedophile for supporting the confirmation of Justice designee Ketanji Brown Jackson to the Supreme Court. And the outcome of Green's case so far stands in stark contrast to that of Cawthorn. Proceedings were set to begin in North Carolina to determine whether Cawthorn participated in or supported the insurrection, but he successfully sued in federal court to block the proceedings. Cawthorn's lawsuit doesn't contest the facts of his involvement in the January 6th rally on the Ellipse, and he has previously denied that he participated in the riot. I thought he had guns in the wheelchair. His lawsuit pushed back on whether a state could review the qualifications of a federal candidate. And what did he catch? Well, he caught a Trump appointee, of course, Richard Myers II, who Trump appointed to the U.S. Court of Eastern District of North Carolina. That's where Cawthorn wants to get back on the ballot. Ruled in Cawthorn's favor, allowing the lawmaker's name to appear on the primary ballot. Efforts to appeal the ruling were filed last week. If Cawthorn wins his primary race, Free Speech for People plans to appeal Myers' ruling. It argues that the judge improperly blocked the group from intervening to defend the federal case, and that there is no reason under federal law why the challenge shouldn't move forward. And Cawthorn is facing a tight primary race. He falsely claimed in a recent fundraising appeal that the left, the media, were behind the accusations he made in March that senior Republican lawmakers had invited him to participate in an orgy. Sort of a coke-fueled orgy, right? And that he had witnessed members of his party using cocaine. Fine told the Post that the organization has also filed cases against Republican reps Paul Gosar and Andy Biggs of Arizona. Little note about the coke-fueled orgies that apparently Madison Cawthorn has been invited to. Someone else's thought, but I'll share it with you. That is perhaps the most inclusive the Republicans have ever been to make a coke-fueled orgy wheelchair accessible.
That is pretty amazing. Very good stuff. I got some information on James Bopp for you.
Yeah, James Bopp.
Yeah, he's Gableman's attorney.
That's why I knew that guy.
He's Gableman's attorney. And if I may just read a little blurb here that
Gableman's attorney that said specifically what his boss in the Gableman is the special prosecutor in the state of Wisconsin, prosecutor that said we should what? Strongly consider rescinding the electoral college votes for Joe Biden, like 2 years after the election. And his own attorney went to a public hearing in the state of Wisconsin, the aforementioned attorney Bopp, and said, there's no legal remedy here.
Yeah. Back in 2008, he was laughed out of court, literally. This is in Mother Jones. The white-haired lawyer from Terre Haute, Indiana, was appearing before a federal three-judge panel to argue that a client, a small conservative nonprofit named Citizens United, should be able to air Hillary, the movie, on demand during the Democratic presidential primaries because she's a European socialist, a ruthless political schemer, and a cross between Machiavelli and Lady Macbeth. That's James Bopp, who is now representing Marjorie Taylor Greene. Great job.
And Gableman.
And Gableman.
At Wisconsin taxpayer expense.
That's very good.
And let's not forget, here in the great state of Wisconsin, there is an action afoot to disqualify U.S. Senator Ron Johnson and Representatives Tom Tiffany and Scott Fitzgerald from their respective ballots. And that effort's being led by our friend Kirk Bangstead and his crew at the Bonacqua Brewing Company Super PAC. So anyways, I think they're probably watching that case with great anxiousness. What's happening down in Georgia to Marjorie Taylor Greene? Because initially it looked a little depressing, even though North Carolina said, let's allow this complaint to move forward. Federal judge, a Trump appointee in the Western District of North Carolina said, no, he's probably got a point here. Maybe it's unconstitutional. I'm going to injunct it. Put him on the ballot. But Cawthorn specifically was at the Ellipse. I'm not clear if Marjorie Taylor Greene was. Now, she said some pretty violence-inspiring kind of stuff that might lead one to believe that she was all down for an insurrection. But I don't know if MTG, Marjorie Taylor Greene, if you didn't know, I don't know if she was at the Ellipse and at the march and whether she went to the Capitol.
All I can say is the hardest thing they're going to have to prove is that she inspired anyone to do anything.
Is it because her pleadings are less than persuasive?
Well, first of all, freedom. Second of all, Joe Biden sucks. Thank you very much. I'm out.
Calling the Capitol Police on a joke. That just shows what a shrewd legal mind she has. Folks, we are the Devil's Advocates. I'm not a lawyer, but I play one on the radio. And you can participate. You probably got some legal thoughts, accurate or not. We don't care. We're James Bopp. I'm representing Marjorie Taylor Greene and Michael Gableman. I haven't been disbarred yet, but not for lack of trying. Come back. More Devil's Advocates.
I don't believe in evolution. I believe in God.
I am the chosen one. I love you.
He loves you and he needs money.
Man, I love my kids so much. I once sat for 3 hours in the cold rain to watch her soccer team lose by 18 goals.
I love my kids so much, I once used a tube to suck snot out of her stuffed nose at 3 a.m.
You win.
Love your kids? Love them enough to make sure they're in the right car seat. From toddlers to tweens, visit nhtsa.gov/the right seat to find the right seat for their age and size. Keep them safe. Visit nhtsa.gov/the right seat. Brought to you by the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration and the Ad Council.
Treat yourself to some Wisco Home Goods natural lotions or sugar scrub in 2022. I'm Don, one of the owners of this family-owned Midwestern business in Madison, Wisconsin. Our natural hand soaps, lotions, and sugar scrubs offer you the luxury you deserve. Wisco Home Goods self-care products come in a variety of scents you're sure to love. So go on, add a little pampering to your daily routine. Order at wiscohomegoods.com. Natural, healthy, nourishing self-care and more at wiscohomegoods.com.
Welcome to the Devil's Advocates.
The Republican Party on a national level, how many years did they investigate Hillary and Bill? They're still going to that.
They're still looking for emails, right? But they don't look in the Trump septic tank for half the top secret classified documents that he was flushing during his term. When one party doesn't care about governing, just don't allow anything to happen when the Democrats are in charge. And then they think the American people are going to get boonswoggled and vote Republican again.
Follow the Devil's Advocates on Facebook and Twitter.
Hi, folks. This is Kirk Bankstad at the Minocqua Brewing Company, and I am proud to introduce you to Choice, our new pink grapefruit flavored hard seltzer. Choice was made in collaboration with Planned Parenthood of Wisconsin, and 5% of the proceeds from every can goes to support them and their fight for reproductive freedom. Choice hard seltzer tastes great and comes in at only 105 calories per can. Go to our website, MinocquaBrewingCompany.com, to find where you can buy Choice hard seltzer.
You're listening to the radio show your mother warned you about, The Devil's Advocates.
Welcome back to the Devil's Advocates radio show, the Tuesday edition. Dom joining us soon. You can join us right now. Just dial 844-96-PARTY. It's always a political party up here, at least when you join in the festivities. Talking about Marjorie Taylor Greene, there's an effort afoot to disqualify her for being an insurrectionist, disqualify her from the ballot in the state of Georgia, where she's currently a representative. But it was just a few days ago, and this one didn't seem as important last week. But, you know, now that she's striking out at the judge who might consider the case that she was an insurrectionist on January 6th, I want to reference this article, CNN, Chris Cillizza. This one came out April 12th, like a week ago. Marjorie Taylor Greene wants everyone to just get over January 6th. Well, I bet she does. Marjorie Taylor Greene has had just about enough of this talk about the attack on the U.S. Capitol on January 6, 2021. Here's a quote, Fancy Brian. The American people are fed up with this over-dramatization of a riot that happened here at the Capitol one time. They are sick and tired of January 6th. It's over, okay? Only happened one time. As Cillizza points out, oh, well, since it only happened just that one time, then he throws a couple of facts out. Fact number 1, 5 people died that day. Fact number 2, more than 100 police officers were injured by the rioters. I like to call them domestic terrorists, insurrectionists, perhaps. I'd put Marjorie Taylor Greene on that list, perhaps. Fact number 3, more than 750 people from 48 states have been charged for their roles in the riot, according to a database maintained by the USA Today. Fact number 4, it was the first time the Capitol had been breached since the British did it in 1814, as part of the War of 1812. And fact number 5, the rioters broke into the building with the express goal of stopping the certification of the 2020 election that had been won by Joe Biden and lost by Donald Trump. This was, in short, a cataclysm aimed directly at our democracy. It was a violent uprising urged on by the then president of the United States because he was unhappy that he didn't win the election. And Green is far from the first Republican to attempt to whitewash what happened that day. Well, there was Georgia Republican Rep. Andrew Clyde, who said this about the riot. Watching the TV footage of those who entered the Capitol and walked through the statutory hall showed people in an orderly fashion staying between the stanchions and the robes, taking videos and pictures. You know, if you didn't know the TV footage was video from January the 6th, you would actually think it was a normal tourist visit. And just a month after the riot, Wisconsin Senator Ron Johnson, we know that guy, insisted that this didn't seem like an armed insurrection to me. Maybe not, Ron, but I'm suspicious.
The mood of the crowd was positive and festive.
Thanks for that, Fancy Brian. You're very talented. About that claim, PolitiFact wrote, we still can identify accounts of numerous weapons found in and around the Capitol, brought there in some cases by people who saw themselves as soldiers in a war. So, anyways, Marjorie Taylor Greene and Ron Johnson and the others, yeah, I'm sure they'd like to put that whole January 6th behind them. I don't think we will, though. I think we'll continue bringing it up because I think the former president's going to be charged on some level. Now, there is what do they call those things? A grand jury about to be convened in the state of Georgia. And my understanding from the attorney general down there, maybe it's just the district attorney of Fulton County, they've already interviewed something like 30, 50 witnesses to Trump's, trying to have them find 11,780 votes. And Lordy, we heard the tape, right? We heard him talking to Brad Raffensperger, he being the former president.
I just want to find 11,780 votes, which is one more than we have.
Seemingly demonstrated intent, got it right there, cleanly recorded on tape, let's call it. I mean, Lordy, if that was any of the rest of us, we'd be probably sitting in the hot seat, probably being prosecuted for trying to steal an election, right? Trying to overturn a governmental function, perhaps in a violent fashion. And this was just a precursor of what was going to happen just later that same week on January 6th, because that was just 3 days prior when Trump made that phone call. And then let's not forget the special elections in Georgia, Kelly Loeffler and David Perdue. Well, they both lost, right? Ossoff and Warnock, they won in Georgia in no small part. I got to think that little clip of Trump looking for those votes, I got to think they were influential on the voters in Florida. Even Mitch McConnell knew fighting that was a bad fight. And he lost control of the Senate. Or, I would point out, or there would probably not be a Justice Ketanji Brown Jackson. 844-967-2789. Bill from Oconomowoc. Welcome, Bill. What do you got?
Hey, you've got a new superstar on your show, or all your shows he calls in. I wonder if every day, if you could have CJ's Corner, just to explain, these mask mandates and how harmful they are. He's incredible. If I was going to pay anybody to literally destroy the Republicans, it would be him as a spokesman. You've got to have him on a lot more often, Crudy. Keep finding. The
guy listens all day, every day, Bill. I don't listen to this radio station as much as CJ does.
Well, get him on the show as a regular and have CJ's Corner. I mean, I can't wait for that guy to come on. It like makes my day. I used to like Looney Tunes. I used to like the Three Stooges, and now I like CJ.
Well, that makes one of us, Bill.
Keep it up. Keep it up. He is the most entertaining, how should I say, graduate of Trump University I've ever heard. But keep it up, Crudy. You guys are doing a wonderful job. That I seriously mean.
Well, thank you, Bill. Wasn't serious about CJ's corner? CJ's hot corner. Maybe we could put him at third and just hit hot smashes to him down there. I'm sure he'd handle him like a champ.
I can guarantee you, however much time you give him, he's going to complain that he didn't get enough and that he's not being treated fairly. No matter
Afghanistan, Hillary's emails,
also Biden's
Benghazi,
and also freedom,
inflation.
Did you?
I think we covered it all,
sucked?
Bill. I think we got all of CJ's corner. I think that's all his points, right?
Also, Biden sucks.
I bet you CJ's otherwise, busy right now because he probably watched the Tucker Carlson special on masculinity, and he's got to tan the testicles.
The sun is shining right now in Waukesha.
Low T, CJ, I suspect. Come back with us. My buddy Dominic. He's Big D. You are listening to the greatest radio show ever, whether your testicles are tanned or otherwise.
I signed something saying that if I'm wrong, I can go to prison. Did you?
I haven't spoken to the CDC yet.
What did you guys do? Take it and do something crazy to it?
That's up to them.
I know what I.
When we built the Devil Radio World Headquarters in Madison, it was filled with construction dust, a real mess. I called Magnific Cleaning Services and they made it shine. A few days later, we moved in and created a whole new mess. Magnific Cleaning Services made it shine again. Now Magnific Cleaning Services is the only cleaners I trust with the keys to my company. They clean Devil Radio affordably and with great attention to detail. Find them online at magnificservice.com for a free estimate. Tell them Devil Radio sent you. The greatest radio show ever could be your greatest advertising investment ever. Partner with the Devil's Advocates and activate our loyal, educated, and engaged audience today. In-show interviews and sponsored special events considered across Wisconsin. Affordable digital and terrestrial ads available in Chicago and Minneapolis and directly on the Devil Radio app. Make a deal with the Devils and get the Devil's Advocates bump to your bottom line. Call or text 844-967-2789 today.
You are listening to WTTN 1580 AM Columbus, W224 EG Madison, always streaming on the Devil Radio app.
AP News, I'm Tim McGuire. The doctor who performed an independent autopsy on Patrick Lyoya's body, Dr. Werner Spitz, says a Grand Rapids, Michigan police officer had his pistol pressed to the back of Lyoya's head when he fired the fatal shot.
Part of the bullet went through the skull and pushed the skin out.
The official autopsy report is part of the state police investigation and has not been released to the public. Lyoya, who wasn't armed, was killed after a traffic stop earlier this month. The officer was on top of him and can be heard on video demanding that he take his hand off a police taser. A top U.S. defense official tells the AP Russia's renewed offensive in the Donbas region of Ukraine has begun in a limited way. UN Secretary General Antonio Guterres has called for a 4-day truce for Orthodox Christian Holy Week.
People do not have food, water, supplies to treat the sick or wounded, or simply to live day to day. More than 12 million people need humanitarian assistance in Ukraine today.
The U.S. estimates that the Russian military has lost about 25% of its combat power sent into Ukraine at the start of the war. A federal judge's decision throwing out the federal transportation mask mandate was greeted as great news by some passengers on planes, trains, and buses. Patricia Mann, who was at Washington Dulles, was asked how she feels.
I'm so glad. This is adding to my pleasure of flying again.
White House Press Secretary Jen Psaki tells reporters on Air Force One people should take the advice of the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention.
The CDC continues to advise and recommend masks on airplanes. We're abiding by the CDC recommendations. The president is, and we would advise all Americans to do that.
Major airlines and airports in places such as Dallas, Atlanta, Los Angeles, and Salt Lake City quickly switched to mask optional policies. New York City, Chicago, Los Angeles, and Connecticut continue to require them on mass transit. This is AP News.
I'm Joel Clark, a SelectQuote agent, with a true story that could save you hundreds of dollars a year. A woman named Linda just called. Her husband, Ray, has a group life insurance policy, but is changing jobs and he can't take it with him. Well, I went to work and found Ray, who's 40 and takes medication to control his high blood pressure, a 10-year, $500,000 policy for only $19 a month. That's way more coverage for a lot less than what he was paying. If SelectQuote didn't shop for your life insurance, you're probably paying too much.
For your free quote and to find out how much you can save, call 1-800-597-2010. That's 1-800-597-2010. 1-800-597-2010. Or go to SelectQuote.com. Since 1985, we shop, you save.
Get full details on the example policies at SelectQuote.com/commercials. Your premium could vary depending on your health, issuing company, and other factors. Not available in all states.
I find your lack of Devil Radio 92.7 disturbing. Do not fail me again.
This is Pat Slattery of Slattery's Automotive Service in Verona. Established in 1973, I've been servicing and repairing cars in the Madison community for nearly 50 years. You can trust me to tell you what your car really needs and fix it right the first time. Give me a call at 608-848-6123 to schedule an appointment today. Slattery's Automotive Service, your trusted choice for local service and repairs for all your automotive needs.
Listen to Devil Radio 92.7 and WTTN 1580 AM, Madison's home for progressive news talk radio, bringing you a lineup of live talk radio every single weekday. Start your mornings off with Matt Flynn Direct from 6 to 8 a.m. Then join the Stephanie Miller Show every weekday morning from 8 to 11. The Tom Hartman program is live middays from 11 to 2. Right here on Devil Radio 92.7 and WTTN 1580 AM.
Knucklehead's biggest sale of the year is only days away. Join Knucklehead CBD and Vapes for their annual 420 party with giveaways, free items, and games. You won't want to miss it. Water tubes up to 50% off, 25% off select apparel, 15 to 50% off CBD, Delta 8, THCP, and everything wellness and wellness plus. You don't want to miss the Knucklehead CBD and Vape 420 sale. Join us April 20th at 520 State Street in Madison, Wisconsin.
Oh, Devil Radio. Good thing I brought my horns.
For Devil Radio 92.7 FM and WTTN 1580 AM, I'm Luke Mathers with your headlines. The Service Employees International Union has filed a lawsuit in Dane County Court with the assistance of liberal law firm Law Forward, asking the court to throw out a March decision by the Wisconsin Elections Commission for mishandling the complaint brought by the union against the 10 Republican electors that claim Donald Trump won the state's 2020 presidential electoral votes without evidence. The lawsuit contends the State Elections Commission mishandled the complaint because Commissioner Robert Spindell was allowed to deliberate in the decision, despite being one of the 10 fraudulent electors the complaint sought to hold accountable. The suit is asking to throw out the previous ruling and to send it back to the WEC for consideration without Spindell. Partly cloudy skies expected today with winds from 10 to 15 miles an hour and a high of 49 degrees. Cloudy skies in the forecast this evening with light and variable winds and an overnight low of 38 degrees. You're listening to Devil Radio 92.7 FM and WTTN 1580 AM.
Devil Radio programming is produced live in the Solidarity Realty Studios. Find them at solidarityrealty.com. Solidarity Realty. There is an alternative.
Warning, you are about to listen to the greatest radio show ever. And due to contractual obligations and to shield our airwaves and corporate licensees from any semblance of liability, responsibility, and gullibility, we must tell you the views represented on this show are not necessarily those of this station or its management. This radio show contains differing points of view on current political topics, and due to the nature of its contents, it should be heard by everyone. Thank you for listening. 3, 2, 2, 1. Now live from the Devil Radio studios in Madison, Wisconsin, where the political party is just beginning. Welcome to the Devil's Advocate Show. Friends proving it's never personal, only politics.
Please allow me to introduce myself.
Here is your host, Mike Crute.
Welcome back to the Devil's Advocates Radio Show, the Tuesday edition, rolling into the happy hour. And I'm happy because my little buddy Dominic can hear me now. You can't hear me now, right, Dom?
I got you, man. Can you hear me, Crudy? Good to see you, man. I had a quick run to the car and get my headphones from traveling on Friday, but I am back and ready to roll. Good to see you, Fancy Brian Evan, on the board, our fair audience. Welcome back, everybody.
I guess you and I on Friday did a bit of a abbreviated Devil's Radio, Devil's Advocate, and then Monday, no live show. I apologize. Unforeseen funeral.
Yeah. Sorry about that.
Yeah. Gave me an opportunity to talk to Bronx and his brother, and they're both Trumpsters. And anyways,
now, he's the guy you did the show with, man. And
Sports Talk Live. What do you got for
Sports Talk Live?
He was originally a better version of you.
Impossible. I don't believe it for a minute. No way.
Well, here's what he was. I actually took the sports talk very seriously back then. Hard to believe. I always took myself fairly seriously. And then you'd get a crackpot caller, you'd get a CJ sort. And Brad was good for CJs. Maybe because Brad is half a CJ. I figured out Brad's half a Trumpster. But what I mean by that, you'd have a guy, what can you tell me about the bass fishing and crivets? Something like that. And Brad would, he'd go hook, line, and sinker. He'd jump in the canoe and go off the bass fish and crivets with the respective caller. And I would just let him take those calls. Like I allow you to talk to a few of the isolated callers that, I'm less social with.
Yeah.
At 844-967-2789. If you note, I never, actually speak to you. I always make Dom do it. That'd mean you're on the bass fishing and crivets list.
I take all the calls.
Lightly screen. Evan's here with me. Fancy Brian on the board in the Shaw. And you could be on the lines. Dial us up. Once again, 844-96-PARTY. Mask mandates, they're all done. Pandemic's over. Nothing to see here.
Good to know.
Moose out front should have told you. I was driving back from this funeral yesterday and flipping radio stations. Thank God no one was in the car with me because I just drive people nuts because I wanted to hear St. Louis stations. I want to hear Chicago stations, Wisconsin stations. I'm catching them all. Whatever I can hear, I'm looking for them. I'm finding them. And the mask mandate, the termination of the mask mandate by a Trump-appointed jurist, 33, according to the American Bar Association, not qualified,
33 years old,
never
not
tried
qualified.
a case, and she's on the federal court for life. Forever.
So what's the problem?
Well, she decided to throw out the mask mandate predicated on a 1942 era dictionary definition of what the word sanitation means. And she found one that meant like wearing masks and, gowns and things of that nature. And she found another one that it meant cleaning up. So she opted for the prior and threw out the mask mandate. That was her legal theory. Depends on what the definition of sanitation is.
It depends on what the definition of is.
Well, that's basically the legal conclusion she arrived at. And I'm not a legal scholar, but I play one on the radio, Dom. Seems a little sketch.
I'm not clear on who the plaintiffs were and on how this whole thing went down. Any sense of appeal on this? Certainly, if there were concerns about it, if this was brought forth by the Biden administration or whatever the case is, would you like to see some other judge perhaps take a look at this ruling?
Or a panel of judge just
right
slap down Judge Mizell, I think's her name, Mizell, something like that. Sure, I would like to see another ruling on this because I'm not clear that we're done with pandemics. Know what I mean?
So we're not done with this
waves.
Pandemic. We got 37,000 cases. I'm on the CDC website right now. 37,000 new cases per day. Deaths are down to 389 a day, and new admissions to hospitals at about 1,500 a day.
So we have 400 Americans dying 365 approximately from coronavirus. And that's way down, actually.
Yes.
But in the current sense, there may be, I haven't worn a mask in a public space in a while now. And there may be less urgency to wear a mask. But here's what's going to happen. It's not enough just to say, I don't have to wear a mask anymore. Because that's how all these people that have been claiming a guy like Tony Evers is tyrannical and Joe Biden, suck it, Joe Biden, let's go, Brandon. Why? Because they ask you to wear a mask in public. So those people aren't going to wear masks, right? But what about the people that choose to wear a mask? I'd love to hear from the audience, 844-967-2789. Some are immunocompromised or know people that are, or are caregivers for people that are. Some of our friends are going to continue to wear masks. They're going to avoid public. Hell, man, I've been going to this grocery store here off University Avenue in Madison. I've noticed the percentage of people wearing masks has gone way up as people like Nancy Pelosi have contracted COVID, and a number of other, especially political people, have contracted COVID. I think the Gridiron Dinner was something of a super spreader event.
Yeah.
But so is half the planes to Cancun. So are half the domestic air flights. You're trapped on an airplane. I know they've got really good filtration systems, unless the guy next to you is coughing on you. And as I'm sitting with the Kunkel boys, the Runkle boys yesterday, as I'm, giving them my political point of view. And, even Craig readily admitted, well, you're obviously better informed than us. And I'm like, yes.
Yeah.
Try reading the paper, my friend. Don't take it from some Brady Whitey talker's perspective on the radio, because that's clearly where they got many of these talking points from. But as I'm having this animated conversation, I gesticulate, and I was actually trying to eat Qdoba at the time, like a steak salad and taco. And I'm literally, as I'm getting passionate about the conversation,
more animated in your discussion.
So, as I have spit at least 3 chips on Runkle.
Oh, come
Brad,
on.
Not purposefully, just, I see food flying out. I said, wouldn't it be nice if I was wearing a mask right now?
Yeah.
I mean, think about it from this point of view. How many times have you ducked morsels of food flying out of my mouth just over this luncheon? So we're sitting pretty close here. You think my breath's getting that far? You can smell it, can't you? Be nice if I was wearing a mask, wouldn't it?
Well, if you wore a mask, you wouldn't wear your meal half the time. So, there's always that for you. But it is, listen, I'm not clear.
You see my point? I literally had food particles, and I wasn't trying to be gross. I wasn't trying to gross up my friends. But it was happening through the passion and, my inability to eat and talk and gesticulate all at the same time. I cannot walk and chew gum, or Qdoba, as the case may be.
I think to your earlier point of those people who would, choose to continue to wear a mask. And I don't know, when I went down to Florida a couple of weeks ago, and on masks at the time were still required. And of course I wore one. But, being stuck in a tube at, 30,000 feet is kind of gross anyway. So I don't know if I'll go back to traveling on an airplane and not wearing a mask. Now, I guess my question is how will the megas react to,
Other
individuals exercising their individual right and whatever to go ahead and wear the mask? Are they going to get mocked? Are they going to get, get harassed, get trolled, whatever the case is? And I would suggest that's probably, going to be a case for a small percentage of the megas out there.
Well,
but generally
small
speaking,
percentage. Dom, I'm sorry to interrupt you, my friend, but let's not forget Tucker Carlson on his show said, if you see kids walking around with masks, go confront the parents. That's child abuse. I mean, that's the most watched host in cable news on Fox News, telling people to go out and confront other people, strangers in the community, because they would choose to wear a mask or have their children do so. And that must be child abuse. So you think there might be a few isolated incidents?
I think it's overblown. I don't think it was going to, those that will continue to do it will have perhaps a small percentage. I don't think that they're going to get harassed to the degree of the Tucker Carlsons. I don't think people are that much into it. It's an individual choice. And if that's what they choose to do, that's what they choose to do. I think people will eventually move on. If you are right and it becomes an issue more than I think it will be, it certainly goes to the core of what the core of what the megas and the Republicans are really down. It's not about their individual rights at that point. It is about them forcing their thought process upon to you. And that is ultimately where a lot of these folks are. So maybe in that sense, maybe you are right.
It's a little closer to the truth at last telling. 844-967-2789. Join the party, Dick. What do you got for us?
Hey, Dick.
Well, quickly, early in the show, when you were talking about your friends you hooked up with in an unfortunate way, and they were talking about family values, one of their big things.
Yes.
I'm sorry. That's where I would have.
What does that mean even?
Well, it was the breakdown of the American family, but I'm not clear how you legislate family values, right? Well, it's about changing images and changing messages. I said, how about the time
supposedly going to project it? Trump? Look, I really love the Sherrod Brown thing. I'm down with Sherrod Brown big time, like Matt Rothschild. I mean, that when he said that was a tape measure walk-off home run. But one other
kind of like Yelich last night.
Boom.
Yeah, you should have asked your friends this. What if the Cheeto guy decides he's going to keep the war chest for legal fees and doesn't run? Because he's already starting to look like he's going to do that. What are they going to do then? Are they going to be mad about that?
Nope.
Yes.
No.
Yeah,
they won't care. They won't care.
Of course they're going to care if they don't get a piece
Dick.
of that action. Thanks for the call, Dick. I totally disagree. The Republicans already fuming behind the
Well,
scenes.
I'm not talking about the Republican Party. I mean the rank and file, the runks of the world. They're not going to care if Trump steals and absconds with the money. That was the expected. Come back with us. Rolling through the half wall.
You are incredibly safe to go out.
That's up to them.
Anybody here have herpes?
I haven't spoken to the CDC yet.
Make it the greatest radio show ever. The Devil's Advocates is my passion. It must be. I've been doing it for a decade. Running two Wisconsin radio stations, providing the only platforms of truth and resistance against fascism in a critical swing state, that's a vital mission and a tremendous responsibility. And it all costs money. So support the mission and the show. Join and give at patreon.com at the Devil's Advocates Radio. Help me change hearts and minds and just maybe save democracy.
President Trump lost the election. Joe Biden won the election.
Collectively, Republicans got 1.661 million votes, 51,000 more votes than Trump got.
He exhausted his cases. He exhausted the court challenges.
All the Republicans voted for Trump the way they voted for the assembly candidates. He would have won.
It was not rigged. It was not stolen. Donald Trump lost the election. Joe Biden won the election. It's really clear.
This message was paid for by the People for People Corporation. Donate online at p4ppc.org.
The radio show your mother warned you about.
Actual tyranny of a dictator. Dictator's going to dictate Putin. And what did Trump do? Trump kneeled to the man. Embarrassing Republicans. And you're still with the guy? This is your front runner in 2024? Are you even smoking some of Mike Lindell's crack? What are you thinking?
They're the GCCCP. We are the Devil's Advocates.
Live weekday afternoons from 3 to 6.
Spruce up your home with soy candles from Wisco Home Goods. I'm Don, one of the owners of this family-owned Midwestern business in Madison, Wisconsin. Our candles are 100% sustainable and come in a variety of unique blends and scents. Did you know our candle jars are also double old-fashioned glasses? That's right, buy a candle and you get a free cocktail glass. Check out our blog at wiscohomegoods.com/blog for more information. That's wiscohomegoods.com/blog.
Malarkey. The Devil's Advocates invented malarkey.
And we are back. Thank you for listening to the Devil's Advocates radio show. Happy hour to us all. You can always join us on the phone at 844-967-2789.
Dominic, I saw a little bit of news. Tommy Thompson says he's not running for the governor of the great state of Wisconsin.
Good.
Well, I was excited.
I think I told you that. I think you might have been wrong about that one, Crudy, but yes, okay.
Well,
he's not running.
Right. 63% of the time, one of us is right all the time. Tommy not running. Apparently, he polled the family, and the wife and the kids all said no. And I'm like, when did that ever stop anybody?
Well, I mean, he's what, 80 years old now. And I think he's going to value the last few years of his life. Doesn't want to be fighting with the family. So no, I think I'm glad he's not going to run. I already lost a little respect for the man for even going down to Mar-a-Lago and seeing the Mago Cheeto Jesus. But let's leave it up to, Clayfish and Ram Jam. Who else is running? Oh, and what, Nicholson. I'm like, maybe Scott Walker's going to come back and save the day.
Wanker. I was looking through my Facebook memories over the course of the weekend.
Memories.
And 2018, April came up right about this time frame 4 years ago. Remember what I was doing, Dom?
What's that?
Making an ass of myself running for governor of the great state of Wisconsin. Doing what Tommy Thompson wasn't courageous enough to do, going against the will of the wife and the family and declaring one's candidacy.
Yeah, and then a month later, you went with along with the wife and the family.
Well, so marriage longevity. Yes.
At least Tommy Thompson saved himself 30 days to grief.
He did. I did not. 844-967-2789. One other note I took today, thehill.com reporting Joe Biden, he's in it to win it. He's running for re-election. He told Barack Obama that. So it's going to require a little courage on your part, Dom. Should Biden run again?
I mean, if he, I mean, I'm not voting for any Republicans. So whoever the Dem nominee is, that's who I'm voting for. But no, I don't think he should. I don't know. But the concern that I have is, who's on the bench, who's going to step up if it wasn't him. And it's one thing to say that now. It's an entirely different thing to, I mean, you don't know. Oh, come on, man. You just went to a funeral for a guy who's like 50 years old, dude. I mean, health things can come up, and Trump's been already, projecting that he won't run, quote unquote, because you never know what's going to happen with health. While I think he's projecting and won't run, Trump won't run. I think that is a natural concern for someone like Biden of his age. And, it's a stressful job, and he won't be the same guy a year from now that he is today. So I appreciate his intent. But if it's not Biden, my question to you, back to you, Crudy, who is it?
Well, let me finish the sentence I was trying to spout there for a second. Biden thinks Biden's the only guy that can beat Trump. Now, I would disagree with that assessment. And I got a couple of future presidential candidates, but I would disagree with you. I actually think the incumbent should run for re-election, barring some significant health decline. I think that Joe Biden absolutely should run for re-election. And I'm a Bernie guy. Love to know what the audience thinks on this topic. 844-967-2789. But I think, of course, Joe should run for re-election. Ain't gonna go down in history as a HW, Carter, no, you go for 2 terms, you go for the gusto. If you think you were good enough the first time, your ego after being called Mr. President for the last 4 years is absolutely going to lead you to the conclusion you're America's only best hope.
Being 79, so 77 versus, 81, you're going to wrap up at 85. I mean, those are, I don't know. I mean,
would you have the same qualms if it was Bernie?
A little bit, man. A little bit. And I love me some Bernie. I think the age thing concerns
Is Bernie slowed down? Have you noticed?
I haven't noted a whole lot with Bernie, but I haven't seen him around. I haven't seen a whole lot of statements. I mean, I know he's out there, but I haven't seen Bernie live in quite some time. I think the age, it's a real barrier, man. And it's one thing to say it now. It's another thing to, go through with it and go through the grueling. I guess how grueling is it going to be if the Republicans don't show up for presidential debates? What do you really got to do? But I think it is something at that point, at that age, it becomes much more of a concern.
So you heard it here first. Thomas, ageist. 844-967-2789.
The funny thing is, I get less ageist the older I get.
Mark from the SAC. Welcome back. What do you got?
Hey, Mark.
Hey guys, yeah, you decided to clear the field. The last time around you ran for governor, and that like Ella Walker.
I couldn't even talk Josh Pate out of running, man.
Yeah, it's. I heard today. First, I heard on the Devils.
But some people say I kept now ambassador to Luxembourg Tom Barrett from climbing in the race. Some people say.
I find it amazing that Ron Johnson is actually citing on with the Republican platform. Apparently, it's going to be is to get rid of Social Security and raise taxes on the guys down at our end of the economic spectrum.
Are you talking about the Rick Scott platform? I mean, he's
Rick Scott platform, and Ron Johnson actually came out and said he's in favor of that. Well, how are they going to replace Social Security? I mean, that there's going to be a lot of people, protesters and walkers, coming out and shaking their walkers at and others as well. That like
Social Mark, it'll be a repeal and replace, and they'll come out with the plan in like 2 weeks. Trust me, 2 weeks. They'll come out with a great plan. Right. Great plan.
Right. I mean, it's ridiculous. And for family values. Ask them what they think about Donald Trump Jr. 5 children at home cheating on the wife, and then taking up now with what Kimberly Guilfoyle. What kind of family values is that? Ask your friends about that. I mean, there's a lot of there's a lot of Democrats that they don't consider family value Democrats that don't pull that kind of nonsense.
Appreciate your call, Mark. You are listening to the Devil's Advocates Radio Show, rolling through the happy hour. I got Fancy Brian in the show. I got Dom in an undisclosed bunker location behind a bar somewhere. I'm here in the world headquarters with Evan in Madison. You can join us on the phones. Dial us up. 844-967-2789. More Devil's Advocates. Want to talk about canned testicles next, perhaps?
What?
I did what I came to do.
It is 2-0.
That's up to them.
Stay informed with progressive news and talk on Devil Radio 92.7 FM and WTTN 1580 AM, Wanakee's choice for essential radio.
Here on Devil Radio, the happy hour is always the happiest hour of the day. If you want to end your day on a high note, join the happy hour at the all-new Dark Horse Art Bar, 756 East Washington Ave, right next to Salvatore's Tomato Pies. Happy hours now Tuesday through Saturday, 4 to 6 p.m. with drink and wine specials and $1 slices, and always free parking in our building. The Dark Horse Art Bar. Enjoy this unique, funky, cool space. Surround yourself with art with featured local, regional, and national artists. New shows each month.
When you buy, you save at Knuckleheads. The Knuckleheads Vape Club and Wellness Club offers savings for using products you already enjoy. Knuckleheads also has savings like buy 2, get the 3rd disposable vape 50% off, buy 4, get 1 free on all cigars, and daily deals on all your favorite products. Visit Knucklehead CBD and Vapes, located in Madison on 520 State Street, or shop online at knuckleheads.shop. When you buy, you save at Knuckleheads.
Masking optional. I'm Tim McGuire with an AP News Minute. White House Press Secretary Jen Psaki says no decision has been made on whether the administration will appeal a federal judge's ruling overturning the mask mandate on airliners and public transportation.
We're continuing to encourage people to wear masks in public transit. They'll make that decision because it's obviously not being implemented at this moment in time, but we'll continue to abide by CDC guidance. If the CDC changes their assessment, which certainly at some point they will, we would follow that guidance.
Amtrak rider Dan Keelman did not wear a mask on his ride into New York City.
Felt a little bit like a taste of normal, and it was a lot more comfortable and a lot more pleasant. I think everybody was ready for it.
The Catholic Diocese of Camden, New Jersey, agrees to pay more than $87 million to settle claims involving clergy sex abuse with some 300 alleged victims in one of the largest cash settlements involving the Catholic Church in the U.S. The settlement must still be approved by a bankruptcy judge. I'm Tim McGuire.
I'm Joel Clark, a Select Quote agent, with a true story that could save you hundreds of dollars a year. A woman named Linda just called. Her husband, Ray, has a group life insurance policy, but is changing jobs and he can't take it with him. Well, I went to work and found Ray, who's 40 and takes medication to control his high blood pressure, a 10-year, $500,000 policy for only $19 a month. That's way more coverage for a lot less than what he was paying. If SelectQuote didn't shop for your life insurance, you're probably paying too much.
For your free quote and to find out how much you can save, call 1-800-597-2010. That's 1-800-597-2010. 1-800-597-2010. Or go to selectquote.com. Since 1985, we shop, you save.
Get full details on the example policies at selectquote.com/commercials. Your premium could vary depending on your health, issuing company, and other factors. Not available in all states.
From Up North News, I'm Pat Kreitlow in Chippewa Falls. Here's some news and commentary from our newsletter. Does Tony Evers come to mind on the list of the most pro-small business governors in the country? It ought to, after the Wisconsin Policy Forum crunched the numbers on how states are divvying up their federal pandemic relief aid. Some places put as little as 5% toward economic development. Evers has put nearly 60% into Main Street businesses and Wisconsin farms. Keeping businesses open and employing folks helps explain why the state has a budget surplus, while other states have had to use their aid to plug holes in their budgets. Also, new polling shows bigoted bills targeting LGBTQ communities remain unpopular generally, but Republican respondents are still okay with that level of discrimination. Details on these stories and more in our newsletter. Sign up for Unabashedly Wisconsin News at upnorthnewswi.com.
60% of the time, they're right every time. The Devil's Advocates.
Welcome back to the Devil's Advocates radio show, rolling through the Tuesday happy hour. I like to think of this as, well, you know what I was thinking? It's 420 Eve. I like to be proactive.
Oh, tomorrow's going to be fun. Enjoy 420 tomorrow, baby.
Well, tomorrow at 420, you can join me at Knuckleheads on State Street. I'm going to do a live hit on State Street, Madison, Wisconsin, one of our fine sponsors. 420 is sort of a circle the calendar kind of day around here. So if you need your party supplies, go to Knuckleheads, State Street. Come see Crudy. Tell him the devil sent you. Crudy sent you. The Devil's Advocate sent you. Somebody sent you. You're there because Crudy said
maybe
it's 420.
He's up on the 420 meds, man.
Also on the big show tomorrow, I got U.S. Congressman Mark Pocan, my congressman.
Oh, nice.
Not joining me at the 420.
No. Okay,
but,
all right.
I'll be 420 at 420 tomorrow. State Street, Knuckleheads, 520 State Street on 420 at 420.
So confused right now.
That's tomorrow.
420.
The other part that is a little confusing, by the way, breaking news. We talked about the mask mandate. The Justice Department said it will appeal the Trump court ruling striking down the mask mandate. I think it's prudent for them to do so, even though we may be between waves of the current pandemic. You need that power. You need that arrow in the quiver if we get another Delta variant coming.
Well, I mean, and regardless, I mean, if you get a stupid, crappy ruling, you should always appeal stupid, crappy rulings. You don't want that stand as precedent. You know what I'm saying? And if a 3-judge panel comes back and says, yes, this was the right thing, well, then at least it has a little more weight to it than, some 33-year-old Trump.
A 3-judge panel is not going to get a 1942 dictionary out and choose between two definitions of sanitation. I really can't see that's the determinant factor. I mean, it seems like sketchy legal practice, just saying. And it's not the defining of a word. Words matter. We talk about that. But if you could literally use the mask as one of the definitions and you say, no, I prefer the other one, and therefore I got to undo the mask mandate, I'm going to choose the narrower, just to clean it up version of sanitation, not the wear a mask version.
The partisan judges will come out with their decision and justify it however they want. I mean, it's almost irrelevant. And was there any clue? What do you think is going to happen when the U.S. Supreme Court tries to go after Roe v. Wade? What is precedent going to matter at that point?
I think it's called stare decisis. It's not going to matter. Precedent. It doesn't matter now because they continuously overturn prior precedent of the court. This court is terrible. Roberts has lost this court. I mean, it'd be one thing to do restrained rulings that might still have, kind of have a partisan bent, but they reach the conclusions in a restrained way. They just don't throw out the prior precedent of the court. Oh, no, not this 6-3 court.
Hey, I heard Jenny's husband is back on the court. So, that should be good.
Clarence?
Out of the hospital and cleared, ready to work.
Oh, I heard he's been tanning.
Tanning the testicles, huh?
Did you see that? Did you
No, I did not. I purposely avoid all things Tucker.
Tucker Carlson did a show about masculinity.
And now,
he's
if I may, right off
the
the bat, Tucker Carlson doing a show about masculinity is like me holding a camp on how to dunk a basketball. Give me a break, dude.
No, more appropriate than you might think, because Tucker's claim is there's a massive drop in American male testosterone levels. And apparently it's because, the bra mentality is being stymied. And the only thing that's going to return America to its once masculine greatness is tanning up the testicles.
Are you telling me that the bro says that attitude, the male dominant, the attitude, that's is what drives the testosterone? I would actually counter that, thinking, no, that's why they act like that, because they're trying to overcompensate for the lack of actual testosterone.
That's
just saying.
Nuts.
It's a lot of nuts.
I've heard it speculated, and I don't want to go deeply there, but the pre-World War II Germans put a lot of weight on male masculinity. And, I'm not going to bring up the H word, because, they say whenever you bring up the H word, you've already lost the argument. I'm just going to say these Republican masculinity seeking males resemble the pre-World War II Germans.
Well, I am unclear as to the science. I mean, if the science is saying there's been, there's massive tests and comparisons between perhaps 100 years. Let me finish my thought.
The remedy is tanning your testicles.
But this is not predicated separate from talking about testosterone levels. And I would suggest that if there is such a thing, if we're seeing a worldwide reduction in testosterone levels, what is our diet? What is our environment? What do those things have to do with it versus just, being some jackass at the gym, dropping your weights and doing bro sessions? I mean, guys like that don't even do leg day.
Don't skip leg day.
Never skip leg day.
I haven't done leg day in years.
I did legs today.
Who needs to do legs, man? Just arm curls and bench
with
presses.
that flat ass critter, you need to do some deep squats, maybe some lunges. I'm just saying, man.
I got sexy legs. Back off.
Yeah, from the front.
It just seems small. My ass just seems small in comparison, because I've let the midriff go a little bit.
Yeah.
Kind of got a little dad bod thing going on.
Yeah. It's an optical illusion.
I don't know if I told you, but Matt Rothschild was here earlier in the big show, co-devlin with me. Matt said, you've lost weight. I said, no, I haven't. He said, well, I've seen you fatter.
Thanks, Matt.
That's like how men, compliment each other. I've seen you fatter. 844-967-2789. A guy without an ounce to spare on his ass. Pizza Box Mike, welcome back. What do you got?
Hey, Mike.
I got an ounce to spare. I just came back from Colorado.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, 420, you bet. Like every day, because this country sucks. But I'm surprised. You mean Dom isn't out there on the beach tanning his knuckle like everybody else?
I was on the beach recently, Mike, and I actually wore a bathing suit. So no, it wasn't me, man.
Oh, there it is. He's got his knuckle out. Yeah, what do you know? But
I mean, these are the same kind of guys that try to fire like bottle rockets out of their ass. You know what I'm saying?
Hey, this country really does suck. I mean, Biden running again, Pelosi, Schumer, everybody. I'm just so tired of these people. Like, I'm 60, man. They've been doing it their whole lives, and they're older than me.
Right, dude. You're like young compared to them. Pizza Box, who would you like to see run? I mean, I know, but listen, I mean, I'm a Bernie guy, but Bernie's getting up there too. If we take the old guard out, who would you like to see? Someone, I don't know, in their 60s, maybe?
No, I'm for too far left. Somebody in their 30s or 40s. I mean, I hope Kinzinger runs against Trump because, at least if he won, we wouldn't be, we'd probably be better off. But I just took that train all the way down to Denver and back. And I'm going to tell you, riding the Amtrak, It's like riding the large intestine of America. It's ugly.
So not a fan of the train, or what was the problem exactly? Was it the ride or was it the view?
Cool, but I mean, if you like, it's kind of like going down the alleys of all the bars in La Crosse after a Friday or Saturday night. It's just a mess, man. I mean, it is really ugly.
It's like going for a jog out in Vegas at like 6 a.m, man. And the sidewalks are cluttered with all the cards.
Well, the train goes like through the back alleys, everything. So it's really kind of not the best view of the country.
Oh, gotcha.
Drive next time. Yeah, I think I might drive.
Driving's not a bad thing, Pete's Box. Appreciate your call. Glad you enjoyed Colorado. Dom, I've been doing a little research.
Yeah, is it your own research, Curdy?
I am researching here on the interwebs, starting with the Google. The question, is male testosterone declining? That's the question I asked of the Google machine. Studies show that men's testosterone levels have been declining for decades. The most prominent, a 2007 study, that seems quite old, in the Journal of Clinical Endocrinology and Metabolism revealed a substantial drop in U.S. men's testosterone levels since the 1980s. We're the last generation where they did it right, Tom. We're the last men's men.
A man's man.
Now, is that problematic? I don't,
but I'm not clear what Tucker's point is. Is it that the politics are making people's produce less testosterone? I don't buy that for a minute. I mean, what? No, it is not what you read. It is not what you believe in that makes you more or less higher or lower levels of testosterone. I don't buy that.
Well, here's a related article from Health Magazine. Just going to read briefly. Remember Frank Sinatra's swagger, John Wayne's quiet confidence, and Burt Reynolds' impressive mustache. They were icons of masculinity for a lot of people, and many folks today point to those icons when bemoaning a perceived loss of masculinity in our society. Well, that, and they point towards the tan testicles. While Frank Sinatra had a violent temper, John Wayne was a racist, and Burt Reynolds was a womanizer, and they all drank way too much. Not compared to Wisconsinites, but I read on. Our values have changed more than the storied qualities of manliness. Despite this, there is something to the argument that men used to be more manly back in the day. I know you were dumb.
What does that mean? If you're more racist, if you're rude, if you're an ass, that makes you manly?
A study, a large sample of American men, found that the average testosterone level has been dropping by as much as 1% per year. If you live to be 100, you're going to be at 0%, apparently. Testosterone levels lower naturally with age, but the study found that a 65-year-old man in 1987 had about 17% more testosterone than a 65-year-old man in 2014. And it wasn't just limited to Americans either. A Danish study found similar results. So what do you think's causing it, Tom? How bad is this?
Environmental degradation, consumption of plastics and microplastics. I mean, those kinds of things, I think, are more in tune to some reason as to why, testosterone levels may have been decreasing. But you can measure testosterone levels. You can these are things that you can do a study on. But what is masculine? What is manly? Those are subjective terms. And if you think someone like Wayne, who was going to beat up somebody at the Oscars, is your definition? Well, I'm not clear that I would agree with you. If you look at the dictionary, having qualities or appearance traditionally, quote unquote, we'll say associated with men. Well, if men all of a sudden start wearing dresses, right? We start wearing dresses like women do. Well, then after a while, that will be associated with men, if you believe the definition. So the concept of masculine and manly are subjective. Levels of testosterone,
I would say that
are very specific and scientific.
Yeah, but there are some qualifiers there, Dom. I would say that men, masculinity usually equals muscle mass, right?
No, what? I mean, John Wayne? I mean, you see how, these old guys, they pulled their shorts up to their chest. Right? I mean, come on, man. These were not muscular. These were not The Rock or Arnold Schwarzenegger. Those are muscular men. These old movie guys, like Burt Reynolds. Oh, Burt Reynolds ever lifted a weight in his life.
Let me read briefly. He did appear in Playgirl. Testosterone promotes attention.
Yeah, Playgirl. I mean, obviously, girl. That's feminine, right?
Testosterone promotes attention, memory. You got a problem with that?
Huh?
Spatial reasoning and energy. Essentially, it makes you sharper. And of course, it increases libido and muscle mass. So that's why I said muscle mass. When testosterone counts get too low, men can begin to feel fatigued, lose sexual interest, gain weight, and lose muscle mass. In addition, there is a link between low testosterone levels and depression and having pale white untanned testicles.
Come on. I can't believe we're allowing Tucker Carlson to set the topic of conversation. Tucker, I mean, I don't know, man. I saw some previews online, and I don't know if they were real or not, but it looked like a big gay parade from the promos of what I saw for Tucker Carlson.
Very homoerotic. Yeah. Tucker broadening his prospects.
Not that there's anything wrong with that, but let's just be real.
Come back, more devils.
All right. You want to get nuts? Come on. Let's get nuts.
You know what, in my brief experience, what gets women going is arguing with them. You know what, in my...
What's that?
I don't know, son, but it's got great, big
Nuts! Hot, salty nuts!
You're going to love my nut. That's disgusting. Put it away, please. We don't do that here.
Hi, I'm Lindsay Sterling, and I know what it's like to struggle with mental health issues. If you have a friend that's going through a tough time, now's the perfect moment to reach out. Learn how to start the conversation at seizetheawkward.org.
Brought to you by the Ad Council, the American Foundation for Suicide Prevention, and the JED Foundation.
Treat yourself to some Wisco Home Goods natural lotions or sugar scrub in 2022. I'm Don, one of the owners of this family-owned Midwestern business in Madison, Wisconsin. Our natural hand soaps, lotions, and sugar scrubs offer you the luxury you deserve. Wisco Home Goods self-care products come in a variety of scents you're sure to love. So go on, add a little pampering to your daily routine. Order at wiscohomegoods.com. Natural, healthy, nourishing self-care and more at wiscohomegoods.com.
The Devil's Advocates.
But do you think the Biden administration's called up Laura Ingraham and making the announcement to the world that we're invading Russia with amphibious troops? Come on, Trump. I mean, and I want to hear fine Trumpsters that want to defend that crap. He's a little late for the early bird buffet. Maybe you people were just naive marks who believed he was a super genius. Then I got some land I'd like to sell you outside of Fukushima.
Check out the entire podcast library at darnwi.com.
Hi, folks. This is Kirk Bankstead of the Minocqua Brewing Company, and I'm excited to announce our new beer, AOC IPA. This IPA pays homage to Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, a champion of the progressive movement. AOC IPA is now available in stores throughout Wisconsin. Check our website, MinocquaBrewingCompany.com, to see which stores in your area are carrying it.
Devil's Advocates know how to kick ass and chew bubblegum, and we're all out of bubblegum.
We are back. Thank you for listening to the Devil's Advocates radio show. Last segment of the day. If you got something to say, hit us up right now. Toll free 844-967-2789. Rowdy Roddy Piper in John Carpenter's They Live. Now there was a man's man.
Don't know the reference. I don't, Rowdy.
You just heard
Piper.
the promo. I came here to chew bubblegum and kick ass. I'm all out of bubblegum. That's from They Live, the movie with Rowdy Roddy Piper. Come on, man.
You've edified me. You've
All
taught me
right. You
something.
learned something today, man. You can check it off your list and go party.
Here's something else I've learned today. Causes of low T, probable causes of low T. As
Okay.
Tucker Carlson's now doing specials with tanning of the testicles. Apparently that's supposed to be one of the solutions. Pollution was certainly mentioned in this health article. Obesity, rising obesity rates amongst American men And, it's not just an American problem, but it's definitely an American problem. And the reduction in smoking levels. Smoking increases your testosterone.
Smoking what?
Cigarettes, and increases testosterone. So the fact that the American people, as a rule, smoke a lot less than they used to, cigarettes.
So the old studies were perhaps not biased, but leaning towards that way because of so much smoke. Is that a question that was beyond the norm?
In part, you can increase your testosterone levels by smoking cigarettes.
What about smoking weed? Can you increase your testosterone levels?
I've actually heard it's just the opposite.
Really?
I've heard that can have feminizing qualities, and actually, I think it's the opposite. I think it lowers your testosterone level. That's why you're a lover and not a fighter. 844-967-2789. As long as I got these pipes down, no question about mine. My kid makes me flex all the It's kind of
I mean, you have a bicep. That's about it. You got a big neck too, a nice thick neck.
Yeah, I earned that thick neck.
Well, you got to carry that big melon of yours around.
One of the ways I earned that thick neck. It's clearly a sign of testosterone. I heard, although I haven't confirmed this, I hear baldness also a sign of high T.
Really? I'm not sure that that's the case.
Pretty clear.
I don't think so.
No, I read that once. I'm pretty sure. I saw it on a napkin. 844-967-2789, along with the Foxconn contract written by Mr. Low T himself, Scotty Wanker. No, I'm talking about completely bald, not that male pattern yarmulke baldness in the back, but Wanker's got. Ross from Middleton, welcome back. What do you got?
Hey, Ross.
Hey, guys. My theory is that it's a women's communist conspiracy. I think all the contraceptives, all that estrogen and stuff that they take every day is in the water. Kind of like that Dr. Strangelove and that one guy where he's talking about the fluoridation that's in the water. And I'm thinking all that estrogen floating around in our water might be feminizing us, but that's my going.
Ross, I never drink water. I make it a point. No water.
Yeah, because Diet Mountain Dew is really good for you, I'm sure. Really, in the green soda really increases your T levels.
It's jet fuel, Ross. That's jet fuel. That increases that and the cigarettes. I don't smoke anymore. I've smoked in my life. Not a smoker per se.
Yeah. So it's who knows? God, in some ways it's got to be horrible if you're trying to have a kid, and going through all that fertility treatment. But sometimes in the back of my mind, I think there's a few too many of us on the planet, but I don't want to be too negative.
Ross, that was not a problem at my household.
Thanks for the call, man. 844-967-2789. But again, a conversation about hormone levels historically and where we're at now in both men and women, I think are totally legitimate and interesting conversations. And as mentioned, the pollutions and plastics and all the other stuff that goes in the air and goes in the water and goes into us. I think those are valid. But how it pertains to a political movement, I think is the more important concern or thought as it pertains to Tucker Carlson and Fox News. I mean, why is this, as you mentioned, Crudy, you brought up, authoritarian types. This is something that they talk about. It in some regards, it's almost like the pedophile thing that they're all the Republicans are always blaming other people for. It's what you dehumanize people, you make them other, and it becomes a talking point, and you can just then generalize and try to push through whatever political agenda you're going after. So, I don't want to be lectured to. As far as I know, Tucker Carlson is not any sort of study on hormones in human beings. So I don't believe what he has to say on the topic. Although it's an important topic.
Totally legit. The guy red light,
when Kid Rock is laughing at you because you're talking about tannic testicles. When Kid Rock thinks you're full of crap, you are so monumentally full of crap.
Yeah, Kid Rock had to mock Tucker about the tan testicles. Apparently that's supposed to be a cure.
And this fake manliness. A guy like Donald Trump, who is the squishiest, softest roundest, whitest dude I have ever seen. I don't know if that guy could do a push-up. Remember in the beginning of Stripes when Bill Murray was doing the push-ups, you could only do a couple, and he had to go to the army and get in his shape.
Yeah.
He was like 30 years old. I mean, but he comes, I would have.
Well, Dom, I think you're suffering from low T or low G, one or the other. 844-967-2789. But it's a great expression on his face.
He is frozen in the best pose.
And he doesn't even know, I suspect. I bet he's still talking to himself. Appreciate you all listening to this side of the conversation. And Mr. Low T there, because he can't defend himself.
See, all the things I hear about, putting sun on parts of your body that are, undisclosed are on the other side of the taint, let's say. Those are things that I've seen before, getting sun and using that to get vitamin D directly into you. I've never heard of the testicles before.
Well, no,
I mean, I've heard of testicles before, but not.
You don't watch enough of the Foxy News, apparently.
I'm never going to.
I'm going to have a fine guest tomorrow from 3:30 to 4 o'clock Central Time. His name is Congressman Mark Pocan, my congressman from Wisconsin's 2nd CD. And then I'm hopping in the car. I'm going down to State Street, Madison, because tomorrow it's 420, baby. And I'm celebrating 420 and Knuckleheads. I'll be there at 420. I'm going live. Come on down and see me there. Got specials all day long. It's a circle the calendar kind of day. 420, it's a big day. Really big day. Some of us think it's a big day.
Happy holidays, everyone.
It's even for our conservative friends. Believe me, it's okay.
I don't know if I mentioned this. Happy holidays.
Be a bro. Celebrate 420. Thank you, Dominic.
Also, happy holidays.
Joining most of this show. Dom couldn't even put in a full hour of work this week. Thank you, Evan. Thank you, Fancy Brian. Don't forget, Busted Pencil is coming up soon. Native Roots Radio coming up next. Keep it locked right here. 420 Eve. Yeah, it's a Tuesday, Dom. I knew it was Tuesday. Thanks for listening.
Sign on with the devil. I'm Satan reincarnated. Who's